Hey, did you see that email? Rick? Told you, couple machetes. Good evening. Call the city council meeting to order of March 5th, 2024. Please stand for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll of the council?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty.
Yeah.
Councilman Lawson.
Here.
Council Vice President Rigo.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Sousa.
Here.
Council President Rodrick.
Here. The record show all 5 members are present. We will shuffle the order of the agenda just a little bit tonight, as we usually do. And we'll hold off on the executive session meeting for a little bit later on the docket. And first of all, we have a proclamation. So I would go to the city clerk to describe that. Oh, sure. Who is sponsoring it, if you want? What, do you want to read?
Well,
Okay.
the proclamation that the clerk will read shortly has to do with excellence of service for one Elmer Pena, who's been with the city for, I think, about 18 or so years. Since we've took office in January of 2023, gotten to know him better. And as far as I knew him before as a referee in my kids' basketball games, but didn't realize everything that he did for the city and putting together some excellent programs. And the programs that he has brought has informed, enlightened the community on history and promoting equity into this community. And they've been outstanding. But he himself has never been recognized in the 18 or so years that he's worked for this city. So I thought it was appropriate that he finally gets the recognition that he's deserved. I will now give the floor to the city clerk to read the proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. As the clerk reads the proclamation, Mr. Pena, if you would come up to the podium, please.
Certificate of Excellence in Service presented to Elmer Pena, whereas for 18 years and running, you create and oversee a platform for unity and representation of our community of the city of East Providence. Whereas you create impactful and enlightening programs that open the doors of City Hall, welcoming to constituents, orators, artists, in celebration of our community. Whereas often the people that are the strength behind the scenes are not acknowledged for their valuable work. Whereas most recently, the city enjoyed a poignant series including speakers, performers, and displays celebrating Black History Month. On behalf of the City Council of East Providence, we are grateful for your ongoing dedication to empowering all people of our community.
Well, thank you. I'm humbled. I'd like to sincerely thank Vice President Rigo for the acknowledgement. I'm of a person, I don't take credit very well. I'm one of those guys from the background. I just want to get the job done and do the job the best of my ability. And in the same breath, really promoting diversity, inclusion in our workforce. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for acknowledging the work that I do here for the city of East Providence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director. I would just add that as you come along, I would just add that you've always answered the call whenever we've dialed up your number, and we appreciate it. Okay.
You have the center of attention.
Thank you again.
You deserve it.
Take this opportunity, the meeting, to also mention that there will be a celebration here at City Hall on March 15th, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I'll read from the flyer, which I think has been disseminated through social media and here at City Hall, that there will be a flag raising, Irish step dancing featuring Councilman Lawson, with the Kelly School of Irish Dance, refreshments, and more. That's here at City Hall. You can get in touch with Kathy Houlihan in the clerk's office. If you have any questions, I'm sure later Director Rezendi might be mentioning this also as a celebration in the city, but that's coming up March 15th, 11:30 a.m. Thank you. At this time, we've had a request to shuffle the agenda, which isn't that long, so we try to accommodate folks as much as possible. So without objection, I'm going to ask that we move to the last page, just about the agenda, the two resolutions, numbers 3 and 4. And number 3 is sponsored by Councilman Lawson. Number 4 by Council Vice President Rigo. So I think it would be appropriate to take those two at this time. So, Madam Clerk, if you want to read the heading for resolution that's listed on the number 3 on page 9 of the agenda.
Resolution requesting the mayor to work with state leaders to compensate local businesses impacted by the closure of the Washington Bridge. Sponsor, Councilman Lawson.
Councilman.
So this is just a simple request. We know December 11th, the bridge was closed with no prior notice. Local businesses took a strong financial hit. It wasn't just the hospitality industry that lost out on holiday parties. You had people that had to travel within the city that lost out. So I reached out to Congressman Amo, and there's no federal program. This wasn't a natural disaster. This wasn't act of God. This was the state failed to maintain and inspect the bridge. So this is a request that while they're doing the budget up in the State House, that they look into a way to compensate these local businesses, whether it's a tax credit, whether it's a financial payment. As you know, to expend taxpayer dollars, you have to have a program, you have to have money budgeted. So this is the perfect time to request this, while they're going through the whole process, that hopefully they can look at a way to compensate these local businesses for, through no fault of their own, the financial loss that they incurred. And with that, I'll make a motion to pass this.
I second that motion.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Any other discussion from the council? I know there's also a meeting in East Providence this Saturday with Senator Whitehouse. Maybe we can pass that request along also. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? The ayes have that, 5-0. Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk, if you could read the heading for the next resolution, number 4, on page 9 of the agenda.
Resolution in support of House H7759 related to snapshot reporting repairs, construction of the Washington Bridge. Sponsor, Council Vice President Rigo.
Council Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. as the clerk just stated, this is in support of House 7759. It was introduced by Representative Kazarian, who, as you people know, our districts, my ward and her districts are one and the same. It is a very good resolution that we all need, and we need the information. At this time, I would ask the clerk to read this resolution, and then after that, I will make a motion to accept. I think the people of the city need to know what we're doing, and the state reps and senators are doing the same to help get as much information as possible. So I ask the clerk now to read this resolution.
Resolution in support of H 7759 related to snapshot reporting of repairs, construction of the Washington Bridge. Whereas the closure of a portion of the Washington Bridge in December 2023 has caused severe traffic issues in the city of East Providence and throughout the state. And whereas the closure of the bridge has and will continue to affect and inconvenience commuters, residents, businesses, police, fire, and rescue personnel, East Providence residents, as well as other Rhode Islanders, until the bridge is repaired and replaced. And whereas the Rhode Island Department of Transportation has indicated that it is waiting for additional engineering studies and structural reports to determine its next steps related to the repair or complete reconstruction of the bridge. And whereas it is critically important that all government officials, residents, and taxpayers are given accurate and timely updates on the progress of any bridge repair and construction, as the issue has local and statewide concern and interest. And whereas H 7759 has been introduced in the General Assembly, which would require monthly snapshot reports to be produced and submitted by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation to various entities, including the Rhode Island House and Senate leadership. And whereas the snapshot report would contain pertinent information on the progress of any bridge repair or replacement, including but not limited to updated timelines related to the bridge repair, traffic data and patterns, accident reporting, traffic delays, as well as track the monthly cost of any repair or construction, among other specific items, as stated in the proposed bill. And whereas the snapshot report will ensure an open and transparent process and keep government officials, local leaders, and residents informed of this critical infrastructure repair and repair/replacement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that East Providence City Council support and urges immediate passage of H 7759 and further instructs the city clerk to send the copy of this resolution to East Providence's General Assembly delegation, the Speaker of the Rhode Island House, the President of the State Senate, and to the Chairperson of the House Committee on State Government and Elections.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I move in support of resolution for House Bill 7759.
Second that and ask to be co-sponsored on that.
Of course.
Thank you. Motion by Council Vice President Rego, seconded by Councilwoman Souza, who will also be added as
I think we all.
co-sponsor,
Being
probably council sponsorship. And before we take the vote, if anyone has any comments, I would just add that I think it's an important sign that we work with our legislative partners, that between the council, state officials, our own mayor's office, and our legislature, that we approach this as a team. So we certainly want to help Rep. Kazarian and the rest of the delegation. Any other comments?
I would like to say well written. Thank you very much for allowing us to have the opportunity to share with the public very important information regarding that. And transparency is key. And thank you for bringing this forward. All I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman. Hearing nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Guys have that unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Can we finish the other two resolutions while we're here?
Sure.
Okay.
We can continue with the other resolutions, Madam Clerk.
Resolution establishing the East Providence City Council Advisory Recreation Board.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Something that, that I've introduced a while ago, and I think we've all have been involved with it. I want to thank Councilman Lawson for doing some yeoman research to keep this as simple as possible. It basically is bringing back what the city always had. We had a recreation board made up of people within recreation circles in the city, all the sports groups, and any group related to recreation. And they would be advisory. This is not a board that can vote to spend money, can vote to engage in a new project. It's basically an arm of the city that we can turn to find out what the needs are and get some ideas from them. I don't think I have to read the whole thing. I think we've all seen it. It consists of some ex officio members within City Hall. All of the council will get to appoint someone. We'll be very flexible with that. And have all the different recreational groups in the city. So we're reinstating a committee that was very helpful years ago. And if it doesn't get off the ground, it doesn't, but at least we're asking community to be our partner in this. We have a lot of exciting things going on, potentially with recreation, from the flagship Pierce Stadium to all the other little satellite parks that we have in the city. So that's all I would add at this point. Is there any other discussion, or can someone make a motion? Motion by Councilwoman Souza and Councilman Rigo. Is there a second?
A second.
That second by Councilman Lawson. Councilman Rigo, do you want to add some comments before we vote?
Sure. Again, as you stated, we're not creating something new. We're paring down. There's been too many committees, again, since we took office last year. There were boards and commissions that had a crazy amount of people, 17, 19. I think this is one of them that was into the high teens. And again, we're not trying to gaslight anybody. We're not trying to overstep it. We're just, it's, as you said, it's advisory. We're trying to, get people, we want people involved in the community, that they have the language you wrote and everything, they can't authorize a piece of paper. So again, this is to we want community involvement, but when we do things, we get pushback. And this is where we're streamlining it to make it realistic so that these commissions and boards can meet and not have 19 people and you never get a quorum. But 5 or 7 people, you'll have a quorum.
And in the instance of the Recreation Board, it ended up just being dormant for years. There was no one on it. It just happens. Things get tired and we have new people involved. So I think this tightens it up.
And I think one thing that we talked about, myself and Councilman Lawson, is that some of these boards, their time, the members on the board should run concurrent to our time, maybe a year after, so that there is that, pass of the baton, so that there is, people there, so that there is that way. But to give people, to get, first of all, 17, 19 people is a absurd number in this day and age. And to, again, pass the baton from one council to the other. Maybe they're 5-year terms, and so the next council will appoint a 5-year term. So there's that consistency and people build it. It's all about community involvement, and which has been lacking in the society we live in. And, post-COVID, we want to get people back out involved in things. And I commend you for stepping up on this one, Mr. President.
Thank you for those words. I think we're all on the same page. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. 5-0. Thank you all. Next item.
Resolution in support of fully funding state aid to libraries to the full 25% level. Sponsor Councilman Lawson.
Councilman.
All right, so I'm very proud to be part of this. I was blessed to be raised by parents who taught me a love of reading, and I am an avid user of the library. And so the resolution is, I'll read a couple of the whereases and then the reason for this. So whereas for many people, public libraries are their only means of access to computer services and all forms of media essential for fulfilling and productive lives. Try to fill out a job application today without a computer. You can't do it. Whereas free public libraries are essential to the general enlightenment of citizens in a democracy and provide for the cultural, educational, informational, and research needs for all citizens. Whereas the Constitution of the State of Rhode Island in Article 7, Section 1 states that it shall be the duty of the General Assembly to promote public schools and public libraries and to adopt all means which deems necessary and proper to secure to the people the advantages and opportunities of education and public library services. So one thing that adds to the exceptionalism of America is our free libraries, our free public education. So the governor's budget proposed a cut of the 25% level. They wanted to cut it a little over 0.5%, which would have been a financial impact of $15,000 the city would not receive to maintain our public libraries. So now therefore be it resolved, the East Providence City Council at the request of the East Providence Public Library Board of Trustees does hereby support legislation which would restore funding for state aid to libraries to the full 25% level required in Rhode Island General Law 29-6-2 and urges the General Assembly to work diligently for its passage. So I will make a motion, we pass this. We have one of our library trustees with us today, and I firmly believe that we need to support libraries. That's not the place to be cutting to try to save a few bucks here and there. So I make a motion that we pass this resolution.
I second that, and if that board member would like to come up and speak on behalf of the board, I'd welcome that also.
A motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. Before we take a vote, we will hear from one of the library board members. Please give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Chris LaRue, Pinnaker Drive in Riverside. I just want to say that this law has been enforced for many years, and during the Great Recession, the percentage was reduced. Unfortunately, and I'm sort of mystified as to why, the governor has moved it back down again. It only, in the budget, it only makes up a difference of about $350,000. So it's not a huge amount in the state budget, but 15,000 is a very large amount in the library budget. That's the amount for a children's program, for instance. So we appreciate you bringing this up.
Thank you. Thank you for
very
your
much.
time. I would add that certainly is meritorious. I know I have family members that utilize the children reading that goes on. Actually, I'm proud we should all be that East Providence supports its libraries. If you're following any of the news, it isn't the case in every other town. An example, the town of Narragansett just spent 10 years arguing whether or not to even have a library. They finally agreed to have one, to build a new one, and now they're arguing about what the name will be. So, you know, we're not into that here. We want to just support our libraries. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Guys have that. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman, for bringing that up. Is that it for the resolutions? Okay, without objection, I'm just going to ask for one other introduction, and I'm probably going to embarrass him because he wasn't aware of this, but As most of us know now in the city, we have a brand new fire chief. And certainly another important job. So Chief, I'm not going to ask you to give a dissertation, but we want to get your face on camera. So if you could come up to the podium, and we want to officially thank you. I know that the mayor's office is planning a formal recognition, but while you're here tonight, we'll have you come forward and just say in a word, congratulations. And before you applied, didn't you know there was going to be a bridge problem?
That was day one. Oh, no, that was day two. The industrial fire was day one. But, yeah, I thank the council. I appreciate it. Very happy the mayor decided to select me. I'm honored. Been here 33 years, almost 34. This is where I was headed, and I'll serve the next couple of years, hopefully.
Thank you. I don't know if I mentioned your name, Chief Michael Carey. So welcome, and we'll be seeing more of you, and we will have that formal presentation from the mayor's office at sometime in the very near future. Best of luck, and you can count on all of us. I know I speak for the council in offering our fire department support. Good luck.
I will say, when I reached out to a couple friends on the fire department, they were all very happy. They said it was the right choice. So, yeah. So we look forward to working with you.
Chief, while you're here, Chief, one more thing. Councilman Rigo, do you want to bring up a further point?
Yeah, I'm going to table the fourth rescue at this time. I just want to just keep it in the back of your brain. It's not going away.
Nope, we'll
right.
still work the stats. I actually worked the 2023 stats for the full year.
Yeah.
Want the information?
No, we're just going on what the mayor promised us on December 5th. So it's not, yep, so it's not going away, but I'm going to table the motion. We have it on document. All right, and we'll see if it's not there, it'll be in the next budget.
That's pretty much where we're
All right. I'm just reminding you that it's here to stay.
at.
All right.
Councilman, I have
Duly
not
noted.
forgotten.
You won't will.
Please.
But I'm giving you a pass since it's the first one, and I think you're doing, yeah, I think the mayor picked the right person for the job. Congratulations.
Very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, Chief. So at this time, pursuant to Rhode Island law 42-46-5, A and 2, we will convene briefly for executive session. We will not be discussing one item, which is the Rumford Motor Inn, only because there's a hearing this coming Friday this week. There's nothing to really report, so we'll just wait for the hearing, but we do have some claims to go over, which should be fairly brief, and then we'll return. Is there a motion to adjourn into executive session? Moved by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion to resume to regular meeting and to seal the minutes of executive session. I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. At this point in the agenda, we will go to a proclamation and Councilwoman Souza.
Thank you, Council President. So I would like, before I start the proclamation, to introduce the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Dental Association, Mr. Aaron Guglian, to our podium, please. February is, we're recognizing February as National Children's Dental Health Month. And so I invited the Executive Director to come and speak to that briefly, and then we would present to him the recognition for the dental month. So take.
Yeah, well, good evening, excuse me. Thank you, Councilwoman, for inviting me. I'm the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Dental Association. I know you're doing some great things in East Providence in regards to the dental assistant program. We were established in 1878. I represent, I think we got a little over 500 dentists, and we have a tripartite system. So you got the American Dental Association, which represents all the dentists in the country and the territories. You got all the chapters, and then you got the components, which is Northern, Central, and Southern. We have a real issue right now with pediatric dentistry. We don't have enough dentists in the state, so I'm working right now with the state legislature to try to push that. But the biggest thing is oral health, and this is what, February is National Children's Dental Health Month in regards to going to your dentist twice a year, flossing and brushing. And I'm going to all the different schools and love to go to East Providence and sort of tour it and kind of talk about it, and also talk about career pathways. Last point is not only do we have dentists, but we have hygienists and dental assistants. And CCRI in Lincoln is the only accredited school. So there's a great program there for young people or older people to go and get, their certification. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you again. And thank you for what you do with this for the city. I know the time you spend, and it's worthwhile.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and read the recognition. Whereas February is National Children's Dental Health Month, provides the opportunity to recognize and highlight the importance of optimal oral health. A healthy mouth is an essential component not only to oral, but to the overall well-being. Whereas the Dental Association theme is healthy habits for healthy smiles is a goal. Unfortunately, it is a goal that is not achieved by all of Rhode Island children. Childhood cavities remain the most prevalent chronic and curable disease. However, 74% or 3/4 of the babies in the United States have not had dental visits before their first birthday, or even though they're highly recommended through both the American Dental Association and the American Academy of Pediatrics. Whereas collaborations between primary care providers, dental providers will indicate a joint effort to decrease the number of young children going into the emergency room for dental-related conditions, it should not be a routine cause of treatment that a child with the age of 3 years old receive full mouth restoration care under general anesthesia. Whereas barriers remain which limit oral health equality even in the basic preventative care services, such as routine cleaning, fluoride treatments, solvent, the restoration care, educational materials in various language should be a standard to increase oral health and knowledge for all individuals. Whereas Rhode Island legislative body has implemented mechanisms to increase access to care, such as the public health dental assistant, hygienist, community healthcare workers, and in 2022 increased Medicare reimbursement and federal qualifying healthcare center utilization of a mobile van and school-based clinics, there remains an unmet need of providing access for oral health. Whereas continued collaboration within communities to promote and provide access to oral health care, caregivers and oral health legacies will set forward equality, inclusion, access to healthcare. So whereas awareness and recognition of February as Children's Dental Health Month in Rhode Island encourages success of good dental habits, good dietary choices to ensure all children will be able to maintain throughout their lifetime healthy habits for healthy smiles. I just do also want to mention that in an effort, I know CCRI, since it was mentioned, does offer twice a year a dental clinic free to all persons in the state, adults and children, to come and get exams, not only dental, but also basic health screening. And they do go through to other schools also to try to help promote good oral health. So I think it's something that is sometimes overlooked, but really important, especially as you age, having these habits as a child of brushing daily, flossing daily, does help prevent other illnesses when you get older in life, and obviously extensive dental restoration from occurring. So thank you so much, Aaron, if you wouldn't mind.
Over there. You hold it. And everybody? Come on. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah. Never does.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you can pretty much resume the agenda for us.
So under consent calendar, we have council journals, January 23rd, 2024, regular council meeting minutes, January 23rd, 2024, executive session minutes, February 6th, 2024, regular council meeting, February 6th, 2024, executive session minutes, February 20th, 2024, regular council meeting, and February 20th, 2024, executive session minutes. We have a notice of a new property number at 48 Bristol Ave, 02915. And that's it for the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. Under discussion, I have one question, and I don't know if it's just a statement or a question, and I don't know if there's anyone here tonight that could answer this, but regarding the new property number, now I know that comes to us often to accept or to vote on. So is that the practice? And maybe legal can look into this for a future time, but does the city approve all new numbers? And what I'm getting at is, a couple years ago, I brought up the point that we have an entire section of Riverside, an apartment area, which is totally 100% in East Providence, Riverside. Yet the address, zip code is Barrington. So the dilemma for those residents is that anything that gets addressed to East Providence or Riverside or 02914, or 6 does not get to those people. They only receive mail that's addressed to them in Barrington, at the Barrington zip code. And a few of those residents had reached out to me and said, you know, we miss out on mass mailings that go to everyone in Riverside, everyone in East Providence, or if any mailing comes to them. So I inquired with the Postmaster General and basically was just told that it's just the way it is, that it would be an expensive thing for the postal service to change around, and I don't get it. And that it wasn't really in the purview of the city, but yet I see where we approve addresses from time to time. So maybe for future meetings, we could try to look into that a little further, but that's an entire group, as some like to say in Southern EP, that is being told they live in Barrington.
Excuse me, are you, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Bringing up that point and not realizing that, I think that's a good avenue that we should ask our congressional delegation. They could make an introduction on the federal level to have those streets changed through legislation.
Yeah, sounds like
I
it would
think
be
that would be
federal.
something that maybe the mayor's office, in communication with Senator Reed's White House and
Yep.
Representative Amo, we could start working on that together. But obviously, if they pass legislation, then it will work. I mean, it's a simple thing. You take Street X instead of 02919 or whatever it is and switch it to 14 down there. It's very easy. I mean, in the day and age of computers, we're not sitting there with cards doing it and everything.
It didn't seem like an insurmountable task. I know we
Who
can
do
have
they
a
pay
street-
taxes to?
What's that?
Who do they pay taxes? to?
East Providence.
So,
Everything is East Providence, water, taxes.
so the only issue is the post office doesn't deliver to them.
They deliver to them, but they won't get mailings. Their address, if it's John Smith and it lives there,
Yep.
their address has to say Mr. and Mrs. John Smith, whatever it is, 10 Smith Street, Barrington, Rhode Island.
But they pay taxes in lieu.
Yes, totally East Providence. So the thing that brought it to a head was there's a publication that gets sent to every East Providence resident. They weren't getting them. And when I asked the post office, the Master General, she said that, well, no, because their address is Barrington. So it's not the end of the world, but there are some streets, I know in Rumford, there are one or two streets only that are Pawtucket addresses, but East Providence resident. And the street kind of straddles the border. I get that.
Actually, a few streets, because when they redistrict.
It should been, yeah.
they did-
Yeah, there's a few, but this is an entire block of a neighborhood. Anyway, we had the motion in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
You have the option to bundle on the licenses.
Make a motion to bundle.
Second.
Motion to bundle and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make a motion to approve to start the conversation, if there is any, of the licenses 1 through 7.
Motion to, second.
Motion by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilman Souza to approve licenses 1 through 7. Yes, Madam Clerk.
There's one
Point.
amendment on
yes.
item number 2, the road race. The applicant changed the date from April 28th to May 11th. By clear with the solicitor that we can just amend that in the motion.
Should we check with the police first to see if that's doable that day?
It's subject to anyway, so if
It-
there's a problem.
It was a formal application change, so it has gone before the police.
I make a motion to amend the date for the road race with applicant Amanda Marscosi for Brown Place School to May 11th, 2024, 9 a.m. to 12. Location is 4 Newman Ave.
So we're going to disregard the original motion. So the new motion by
I'll second
Councilman
her.
Souza, seconded by Councilman Lawson. It amends the date. Was it May 11th?
Yes.
May 11th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that.
Now I make a motion to approve all of the licenses as amended.
Motion by Councilman Souza to approve the licenses.
Second.
1 through 7. Councilman Lawson seconds. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Appointments.
I have
There are no public hearings.
Oh, I brought it up, Jill. There's no public comment.
Yeah, we have the sheet here. Thank you.
Yep, nobody
No,
signed
no
up.
one signed.
Feel
So
energetic.
under appointments, appointment to the Library Board of Trustees, Crystal Alves Amoroso, sponsor Councilman Fogarty.
There a motion, Councilman Fogarty?
I'd like to make a motion to accept.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Rego, Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that.
Appointment to the Small Business Advisory Committee, Kim Noon, sponsor Councilman Lawson.
So Kim is an active member of the community, and she opened a Teddy's Candy Bar and More in the Willett Pond Plaza. And I I humbly ask that we appoint her to the Small Business Advisory Committee.
Second.
The humble motion is by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next appointment.
Appointment to the Small Business Advisory Committee, David Duarte, sponsor Councilman Fogarty.
Make a motion to accept David Duart, outstanding leader in the business community.
Second?
Motion by Councilman Fogarty, seconded by Councilman Lawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have that. Thank you. All good appointments.
You got it.
Under council members, update requested on work on Glenline Field screening, fence, sidewalks, walking path, and walking path lighting. Receive report, sponsor Council President Rodericks and Council Vice President Rego.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll defer mainly to Council VP Rego. This is an area several years ago, prior city council even had appropriated funds to do some lighting. We made some changes. We are not going to light the ball field, which was a change, but some low-level lighting and some pathway improvements. And we're at a point now where not only residents, but some of the state legislators who live in the area, former council president, who's now a state senator, is inquiring among us when we can get that. Before I go to you, Director, Councilman, do you want to add, or do you want to hear if Director Rosendi has them apply?
I want to reiterate what some of the things you said. This was appropriated in the capital fund under the previous council. Council President Brito, whose seat I took in Ward 1. We were told last year at this time that the lights were ordered, that the repavement of the walking path was going to be done. There was some work done in the fall of 2023. And now the solar lights, and as the senator pointed out, was part of the initial project. Now, nothing is happening. The lights, the last I was told that the lights are coming in at a higher price. And the people of that area have been waiting a long time for these improvements and the lights. I mean, it's going on like 5 years. You would be better informed as far as the numbers. So this is a project that should be done, needs to be done, and has to be done. And we can't do these other projects until we do the projects that was started almost 5 years ago.
Thank you. Director Rosendi, do you have an update for us?
I do. Thank you. Good evening, Council President and members of the council. So in terms of Glenline Field, the screening, the fence, sidewalks, and walking paths. So the netting, I'm assuming by screening you meant the netting. The netting is complete. It's adjacent to the ball field. The fence has not yet been installed. However, it will be installed this spring, assuming that the city has an agreement with the two property owners. It will be a one-time thing where the law department would have to create an MOU, I'm told by Director Borges. The fence will be on private property, and the walking path will be completed this spring.
Can I just interject for a second? Now, the fence, if I recall, when we approved that funding, the company will install. The price included installation, so it's not DPW or city workers. Is that still correct?
To my knowledge,
You know,
that's correct,
okay,
but I can
so-
double check.
Right, so that should be a matter of just ordering that fence and telling them, unless they don't have it,
Talking with the property owners and getting the MOU.
that's another
Because it will be on
issue.
private property, the fence will be.
The walking path lights is the biggest issue for the residents of the neighborhood.
And-
That was one of the things that Councilman Brito put in the initial allocation of funds. We did take away, $150,000 to light a ball field is not doable. And we're not looking at that. But the lighting, the walking path lighting is an issue. And more with the construction off Roger Williams Avenue of new developments, what it is doing, it's pushing wildlife into that area more. And people are concerned about their welfare and the kids, especially at dusk and everything, about walking. If there's lighting out there, there's more of a chance that wildlife, AKA a coyote, would stay away. So the lighting is an issue, as well as the walking path itself, being
It's uneven, right?
disrepair. There was some patchwork done in October of 2023, and I haven't walked it since then. But those are those are the issues that are forefront that myself and the council president keep on getting questioned on by the constituents up there about where is the lights for the walking path.
Understood. Thank you, Council Vice President. Again, I spoke with Director Borges, and I'm told that the walking path will be completed this spring. We didn't discuss lighting, but that was the general consensus that it would be completed this spring, but I will check.
So at the 19th of March meeting, you will have an update on the lighting for us, or either through yourself or through Director Borges.
Will do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Director, for that update. Anything further on this issue, or we'll revisit it? Sure, the next. Okay, thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Receive update on Sabin Point boat ramp closure. Receive report, sponsor Councilman Lawson.
So I spoke with Dan. He couldn't stay. He had to go. So the boat ramp is officially closed. We passed the resolution. They're going to be putting the cement blocks in front to block off that area. As you know, that ramp, it's old, it's beat up, it's becoming unsafe. There's no parking for trailers. 2 miles down the road at Haynes Park is a beautifully maintained DEM boat ramp. So the update is they're going to be putting in the barriers so the ramp can't be used, and the kayak launch ramp will be coming soon. So that was that update.
Great, thank you for that update.
Mhm.
Next item.
Report on Kent Fields community presentation on February 28th, 2024. Discuss only. Councilman Fogarty.
Councilman.
Yes, good evening. It was a great meeting that evening by the mayor's staff and the architect for the Kent Field project going forward. Everything seems in place for the adaptive playground. The residents, there was at least 40 people in the neighborhood that were there expressing their concerns and their pleasures. A lot of great questions were asked and answered, mainly drainage. Many years of drainage problem in that area of Kent Field behind the tower, and we know it's an old landfill. DEM permit looks good to be on target for a start date of April 15th. Other concerns were trees, shade, how good the equipment was, walking paths. A lot of great questions. There will be restroom facilities, one, maybe two for sure. DEM approved / our city will put them in. And looking forward to doing them in all the parks of the city, recommended by myself and others. And the council members here support that fully. And I'm appreciative of that, appreciative of the staff that put the work ethic in. I know it's delayed, but that was delayed on permits for the land from DEM. So the mayor did a good job. Dan, anything else from the members or from Patricia?
I did talk to Kevin Alverson, and we're all set with the BEM permits. There's no issues there. So we're good to go on April 15th. Ready to go.
For the younger families who are new to that area, it was a landfill for years, but that has all been cleared. It was a clean fill at the time, but it has been properly and legally tested. So I think all hurdles have passed. Director Rosendi, did you want to add to that?
Just briefly, just to piggyback on what Councilman Lawson said, according to our planning department, we have all of our needed DEM stormwater permits. And just for the record, the project was reviewed under Rhode Island DES program and in fact approved, excuse me. And I know the councilman mentioned April 15th. So April 15th is a slated groundbreaking. So we plan to have an official groundbreaking. Obviously, would love to invite the council as part of that process, but more information will be coming on that, weather dependent on the completion date of September, October.
People might be busy. Isn't that tax day, April 15th?
It is after they file.
Mine's already done. You don't do your taxes?
Well, that's the last day, right?
$500,000 for adaptive equipment. Have you selected the adaptive equipment yet, as far as, separate from normal equipment? Has that process been, that process been done and you selected?
We met with
What
the
equipment?
contractor today, but on a different project. But I know that the money is planned to be spent on purchase and the installation. But as of right now, is the exact portions of that of the adaptive playground. I'm not aware of what was chosen, but I can find out and report back out to Council Vice President.
And considering there was an issue with calling it Kent Field, Kent Heights, we should just name it the Riverside.
No, you have enough in Riverside. Oh, it straddles
People
Riverside.
love the Riverside.
Thank you, everybody. This will be another great park in the city.
Absolutely.
Next item, please.
Receive report on storefront improvement program. Councilwoman Sousa.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I know we have in the audience Melissa, who is spearheading, no pun intended, the storefront incentive for our community. So I just asked if she could come up to kind of give us an overview and then any questions that we may have. So thank you for providing the information that was requested. Some of the questions that I have relate to, I did see the application process and what the criterias are and how it's scaled businesses in the community. One of the things that I guess I didn't see, or maybe it's not purview, is how funds were awarded, grant was awarded. Have they expended those grants already? So a check has been cashed, or did they have to start the work, provide the invoice, then receive funds for it? Like, what was the process once a business applied, was approved and awarded? And how are we following through that those things that they said they were going to do were being done?
Okay, so the way the process works is that once they're approved, they get 50% of the amount that they requested. When they're at about halfway through their completion, we have a conversation. I go by, I have a conversation with them on site. I take some photographs. If they are in fact halfway done, then I go back to the office and I process for another 25% payment. And then they get that check. And then when they're done, I go by again. I take the final photographs, have that final conversation with them, make sure that they did all of the improvements that they had said they were going to do. And if everything's found to be in order, then I process that final 25%.
Excuse me one second. Melissa, for those watching the meeting, could you just identify yourself, name and title?
Or I'm Melissa Spur, and I work in the planning department as the ARPA project manager. So I basically manage a few programs using the ARPA funds.
Thank you.
I have a question.
One second. Are you
Oh,
finished?
sorry, were you?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. I have, this was provided by the planning officer yourself. And it says here, the qualifications, it lists the different areas, North Brow Street, et cetera. And it says, is the property housing a business deemed disappropriately impacted by COVID-19 pandemic as per the U.S. Treasury? Then doing some research, going to U.S. Treasury, it says here, small businesses have faced widespread challenges due to the pandemic, including periods of shutdown, declines in revenue, or increased costs. The final rule provides many tools for recipients to respond to the impact of the pandemic on small businesses, where pre-existing lack of access to capital compounded the pandemic's effort. My question to you is, the pandemic, as we know, was deemed in right around this time, March 14th, 15th of 2020. I involved in a couple of businesses, one that I invested in it was existing during the pandemic, and I know the rules are similar. Because of the investment after the pandemic that I was not a proper owner of the business, we were ineligible for any funds dealing with employees. Reading this with the Department of Treasury, how can a business that was not open during the pandemic qualify for these funds when they weren't open in March of 2020 and weren't incorporated?
So can you point out to me a business where that has happened?
There's quite a few on this list that got approved that were not open when the pandemic started.
Okay, so you're talking like new businesses like Myrtle that have opened.
If you want to use them, but there's others.
Yeah.
So they weren't, if you caught it, according to the U.S. Treasury, it says here again, small businesses have faced widespread challenges due to the pandemic, including periods of shutdown. So shutdown means you had to be open during the start of the pandemic. They weren't a corporation, so they weren't shut down. How did they get this? How are they eligible for the money? If I'm the Treasury of the United States, they don't qualify. Just like, again, just like I didn't qualify for the employees of the second business I'm involved with, I couldn't qualify for the $20,000 per person, whatever the amount is. They weren't open, so they weren't shut down. How did they get this money?
So I don't know that when I was creating this program, I was really looking for a way to make sure that the business corridors that had been really impacted by COVID, the corridors that are specifically listed there, they had been so hard hit that I was trying to create a program where we could fill those empty storefronts with those kinds of businesses so that we could lift those corridors out of that awful situation that they had been in during the pandemic, but also before the pandemic, because they had already kind of been on a decline.
But
And
if you look at this again, even on the first page, they weren't open. So it doesn't meet the qualifications. And again, we've been told we've been nitpickers, we've been gaslit, and I'm just trying to protect the interests of the city here. If you read what the United States Treasury said, if a Treasury agent was to walk in this building tomorrow, or a Secret Service agent, and ask for these records, they're not matching. They weren't incorporated, and there's a lot of money, and it doesn't match there. I mean, we can go on to another situation here where it talks about is the property highly visible and significant to the corridor? Well, there's a couple of businesses that aren't a storefront, that aren't visible. They might be in the area, but they're not in an area where a storefront. They're not on Taunton Avenue.
So when you're using that, that was an additional criteria that we created as a city that was not mandated by the US Treasury. It was just a way for us to give like an extra way to make sure that those businesses that were really visible were able to get funding before those businesses that maybe weren't as visible. Because again, I was trying to create a program that would uplift the community.
I understand that. But again, the biggest thing comes down to the shutdown. We're not following the letter of the law. And when you were on record, and when you came in front of us during our budget hearing and talking about the ARPA funds, you even said that if we turn back the money, the treasurer, we won't get the money next time. And I'm paraphrasing what you said, what you're saying. But if we're not using the money accordingly to the way the Treasury states it should be, we have an issue here.
Well, I mean, the majority of communities aren't even doing this. We're one of the few
I'm not worried
communities that
about the
are.
majority of communities. I'm worrying about the city of East Providence. And right now, if I'm a Treasury agent and I'm looking here and I'm seeing including periods of shutdown and the business wasn't opened before, then I have a concern, Mr. Solicitor. Shutdown means that they had to be open during the pandemic, correct? If it says here, including periods of shutdown, so that means they had to be open during the pandemic and they had to be shut down. Who's going to be liable if the Treasury comes in here and says that you spent that money illegal? It's not maybe illegal is too strong of a term, but
Through the chair, I mean, the first question,
Councilman.
the first question disallows the application. They weren't even in business to satisfy the need.
I don't
So
know,
there's nothing-
I'm not totally familiar with all the ARPA regulations, but I also know that,
The no.
no, I understand that, but I also know that because of the amount of revenue that the city of East Providence lost, like those are general applicable rules, but there were also gave cities and towns the ability to take parts of money and apply it under some of the exemptions that are allowed. So obviously, we reported this money or have reported this program, and we will be reporting it, but no one has raised a red flag as to whether or not.
But when the accountant, when the Auditor General of the United States Treasury, when this final report goes in at the end of 2024, and we have to use it, this right here, my concern, it's going to raise a red flag. I mean,
I don't know that.
Well, it could potentially. That's what I'm trying to avoid right now.
I think the program that you were talking about for the payroll, that's a different.
Well, no, I'm not talking about payroll.
No,
I'm
no,
talking
but the
about
program
this.
you said you weren't eligible. That's a payroll protection
Yeah,
program.
but I'm just saying.
Had to be in business at the time.
Well, the company was in business. I just didn't own the
Right,
business at the time. But I'm just saying I had an active business, and again, I'm not here trying to.
No,
I'm
but
just
there were different-
I'm just using the criteria.
Right, there are different programs that had different
exactly.
eligibility requirements.
But if you're reading this one, it's saying that you had to be shut down during the time. I mean, I'm just here to protect the interest of the city.
So
We could have used the money into another fund.
Through the chair.
Councilwoman Souza.
So I know that the intent of this is always the best, obviously, to support our businesses and all
And
facets
that's what I want.
community. One of the things, and I know this is on a rubric for points, and that's how those were determined, who was eligible and who wasn't. So Michelle, maybe if you could tell us for the yes and no, what the weight of those points would be. Are they 1 point for each? Is that?
At the very top, they actually get, I think, 3 points per So the
then if
business
they-
type,
Mhm.
and then the second is if they're on the targeted census tracts.
So section 1, if the first, so they were on the census tract or corridor, yes, but they didn't meet the COVID disparities, would be a no. What was the weight of that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
So the first section that talks about the property, do you have the sheet?
I don't have any.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, pass that along. So section 1, what would be the value for yes or no in that section?
So for every yes in section 1, they'd get 3
3
points.
points, okay. And then the points that they are listed, and then 1 point for section 3, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the only reason I'm asking is because some of those who weren't granted, I see had applied back in 2022. But we do have some newer ones at the end of last year and even one beginning of this year in February that was awarded. I'm just wondering what the tallies are and what the difference is.
So the reason why there are some businesses that are waitlisted instead of accepted is because sometimes their application isn't ready. So there have been some people who applied way in the beginning, and the improvement that they wanted was so complicated that I had to give them the feedback of getting an architect so that it could go through the building department. And for some of those businesses, because they were so hurt by COVID, they don't have $12,000 or $15,000 sitting around to get architectural plans.
Right.
And so they weren't, and that's why I try to call it waitlisted instead of rejected, because I'm hoping that, you know, maybe through the course of like the next year, maybe they can find the money to get the architectural plans together. But that's why sometimes you'll look through the waitlisted businesses and they seem to meet the criteria, but they haven't been approved, and that's why.
And how are we, so those in the criteria, it also stated that if the business could take the 40,000, which would be the max per business with a match, and then, or they could take the 10,000, which would be no match. Now, what about the ones in between? So for instance, there's a business that had 29,000. Is that they took the 40 but didn't expend the 40, or?
So what we typically do, so let's say somebody gets 25,000, for the first 10,000, they don't have to provide a match.
Okay.
And then we take that additional 15,000 and we calculate what 25% of that would be. And then we try to be flexible. So in some situations, the applicant really only can afford a $25,000 improvement and they don't have any actual cash to put into the program. But what they'll say is, well, I don't really have the money to provide a 25% match, but I'm going to paint the building on top of what the improvement is going to be. And I can get an estimate for what that'll be, and that'll be 3,000. And so we try, a big part of this is trying to meet people where they are, right? Because everybody's in a really bad situation. So if they can provide what I call an in-kind match, then we allow that paint to stand in as their 25% match. For other people, we just subtract the 25%, and then it's understood that they have to provide that cash difference.
So for the 30, just one follow. So for the 40,000, it's a 20% match,
It's a
cash
so-
or in kind.
Yes,
Okay.
but it's 25% over that first 10,000. Does that make sense?
So the first 10,000 is
No match.
right. Yeah. So you're essentially giving them. Everybody will get technically a 10,000, and then the 30,000 is really the grant that they're receiving. Right.
Councilman Fogarty?
Who inspects the work and when it's done?
Well,
What
this-
they're gonna do?
So that's me. So there's not really like a formal inspection. So if they're doing an improvement that's really complicated, like getting new windows, then they have to go through the normal process with like Director Rob Walker. He has to go and do all of his normal inspections that he does. There are some improvements where they're just doing things like changing paint color or, getting an awning, then in those situations, I just go by and I make sure that everything that they did was as promised.
Okay, so you inspected all these people that already had the money? You've already inspected everything that's been done?
Well,
Do they have the
everybody,
Time, do they have the same time by 24? Or has it already been spent and allocated?
so everybody here is at a different point. So this is where it gets really crazy because I literally have 71 applicants. And everybody is at a different point in their process. So some of these people have been approved for funds, but there are a couple of people who haven't even started yet. But there are some people here who are all done. So everybody's at like a different point. Some
You have a
people are,
list? Not to interrupt, you have a list for us that we can go by? Because I've been by some of these businesses and I haven't seen anything for improvement, so.
yeah, there's a
We
couple.
get a
So
list of what they,
did you
besides,
get this list here? So I actually have this. list.
just one word, food, if that'd be food or paint, is that entertainment? Is that the,
So the
No,
list that
so
we
there's a-
have, there's one, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. There's 21 that were awarded on this list that we have, and then the rest are waitlisted.
okay.
So you're managing 21 right now that have been physically awarded.
Right.
Okay.
But Councilman Fogarty, what you're
Yeah.
asking, I don't know
So-
if you have this same document that was given to the clerk, but there's a column that says improvements made. And if they haven't started, I have that included in here.
Yeah, I have it, okay.
Okay.
So what they're gonna do, like glass, in other words, glass fronted
Right,
improvements, like Miller's did.
right.
Okay, they're one of the awardees.
Yeah, Miller's is on here. They're actually the second one on the list.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, a point, I'm just wondering, going back to Councilman Rego's concerns, I wonder if there are some semantics involved. For instance, it sounds pretty clear when he says, before the pandemic.
Well, when was
What?
this rubric created?
I created that at the same time that I created the application. So
And that was what year?
that was when was I hired? 2023,
Okay.
like August or September.
But that's not my question is, I mean, has anyone in government, federal government said the pandemic is over? I'm under the impression it's still an ongoing thing. So, and I don't know what side of the, I'm not taking a side on this. What I'm wondering is, we kind of had this discussion a little earlier. So if you opened a business after, I mean, is in my mind, we're still in the effects of a pandemic. Businesses are, and one of the terminologies was, small businesses have faced widespread challenges due to the pandemic, including periods of shutdown. But to me, that doesn't necessarily mean absolutely shut down, is including that. There are other factors too.
And honestly,
don't-
it gets a little tricky. It gets a little tricky because there are some times when you have conversations with people where they'll say, well, you know, I was going to open a restaurant in 2020, but then the pandemic happened and I had to put everything on hold. And then I couldn't open a storefront. But now that there's this storefront program, now with this infusion of cash, now I can actually get it off the ground. So it's really hard to be cut and dry in these kinds of scenarios. So like some people were in a food truck, right? And they were like, well, you know, I was going to open a storefront, but I had a food truck. And because of the pandemic, I didn't feel like I could open a storefront. But now I feel with this grant, I can open up a storefront. You know, I know that we want to be very by the book, and I'm a very by the book person. But when I think one of the most important things for me that I've been trying to do is to go to the business owners and hear what they've gone through with the pandemic. And then a lot of the times what I'm hearing is what helps inform the process for me, because I mean, that gets tricky, right? It's like, were they technically open? Well, they didn't have a storefront, but they had the food truck. and they were going to open a storefront, but then the pandemic came. Did that affect them? Yeah, that did affect them. So I don't know, it gets hard to be that cut and dry when it's such a human impact.
I'm not being, I run 2 small businesses, so I am not being anti-business at all. I mean, you just mentioned that, and I just want that, but I'm just trying to protect the city and look in here and then go in. Then if you go down to what the Treasury talks about impacting small businesses, and recipients can identify small businesses impacted by the pandemic and measure the response in many ways. For example, decrease revenue or gross receipts. So if you weren't open beforehand and you were thinking about it, you don't have the gross receipts.
But that's not
Let me finish, please.
Okay.
Financial insecurity.
Yep.
Increased costs. So again, if you weren't open, there's no increased costs. Capacity to weather financial hardship. You weren't weathering anything yet. You don't have a mortgage. You're not making payments to a bank to cover the costs of the business because you weren't incorporated yet. And then challenges covering payroll, rent, mortgage, or other operating costs. I mean, and those are the issues these are the issues I'm raising right here. Excuse me, you can proceed with your conversation now. Okay.
So that was one of the ways that you could identify which businesses to assist, but there is actually another way. And the way that we decided to move forward is the second way. So if you actually go to the same thing that you're referring to, the final rule overview on pages like 24 and 25, they talk about how you can designate an impacted industry under section 1. I don't know if we have the same document. Is yours like 44 pages long?
I'm up to page 20. I got page up to 24. So
Okay, so does your page...
talks about designating an impacted industry. There are 2 main ways an industry can be designated as impacted.
Yes.
And again.
So we didn't do the first one, and I'll be honest with you, we didn't do the first one because it would be so labor intensive for us to do that, but also ridiculously labor intensive on those businesses. And we didn't want to put an undue burden on a business that was already experiencing hardship for them to have to prove all of this reporting to us so that they could get a grant. Because typically when you're awarding grants, you're supposed to be a little more generous and you make the process a little easier instead of like a loan. Like if you were providing a loan, then you'd ask for all of those documents. But with a grant, you really don't want to hold people to the letter that hard because it's understood that a grant is supposed to really be almost like a gesture of generosity, right? Less than a loan because they're not held to that, right? It's not like getting a loan through the EDC.
Yeah. And I'm sorry.
So we didn't go forward with that first way. And I honestly think most communities who did do this didn't opt for that because of the same reason. We decided to do the other way. So it says here, there are 2 main ways, and the one you mentioned. And then the second way was if the industry is in travel, tourism, or hospitality sectors, the industry is impacted. So that was US Treasury saying, regardless of where you are in the country, nationwide, if you could tie a business type back to being travel, tourism, or hospitality, then it is considered by them to be an impacted industry. So that changes state to state, right? Sometimes it changes city to city. So for Rhode Island, we had to think about what are our travel, tourism, and hospitality sectors for Rhode Island. And that's why we picked food and arts and entertainment, because those all tie back to that federal standard. Am I making sense? Okay. So because the federal government just said that so clearly, we knew that if we put those business types in there, we would be meeting their criteria.
And here's, I'm not going to say a smoking gun, but it's pretty close. And this raises a red flag. Again, this has nothing to do with all the businesses since I'm supporting them. We're all supporting them even more. And we have other issues to bring up about supporting small businesses. But the red flag here is providing eligible aid to impacted industries. Aid may only be provided to support businesses, attractions, and tribal developments operating prior to the pandemic, affected by required closures and other efforts to contain the pandemic. Further aid should be generally broadly available to all businesses within the impacted industry. So again, call me nitpicking, gaslight us, gaslight me,
So
go
Frank,
right ahead.
are you saying you don't want to go forward?
No, my concern is that's the language here. There's a lot of language here that.
Right, but is that in a certain section? Because I thought ARPA was to help business, and it wasn't just for businesses that were open.
It's right here. It's a treasury requirement.
Right, but is that under like a direct payment? Or does that say cities can't use the money for businesses that weren't open?
They're telling
There may be some context that we're
I
missing in
mean,
there.
but I just want to make sure we're all set here. 'Cause
Okay.
We're getting mixed messages. If you look at this, I mean, this
Well,
is,
other than that, who's been reaching out to you saying that something's improper? I'm just trying to figure out where we're at.
Start reading this stuff, it raises red flags of concern. You're not concerned about hearing all this tonight?
Not at all.
I'm glad.
Not at all.
So
I just don't get, is there an implication here? Is there,
I'm just saying, are we following everything? Because if you're looking by the guidance from the Treasury Department, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of question marks here.
But the key might be, as Ms. Spur says, that if the industry is affected, that might be the umbrella big enough to cover a business that might not have been open, but is affected by the overall thing.
I see nothing but positive from this program. And
I like.
there may be a property that the business owner wasn't in business in 2020, but the property could still use a sprucing up.
Yeah,
And I got no problem with that.
yeah, that's a different category. Read what they say. Just go.
What do you mean that's a different?
I mean, property storefront improvement. If you read what this is saying, I mean, there's a lot of question marks here. If you read it, I mean, the first question, when you open during the pandemic and they're telling you you had to be open before the pandemic. That's what I'm saying.
I get that. I
That's
get
what I'm
that.
saying.
Councilman
So,
Foley.
so just not to interrupt, but so you're going to follow up with each one that is required to spend the money where they're supposed to spend the money.
Yes,
That's your job.
yes.
You're viewing you got eyes on every place that said they're going to spend the money where they're going to spend the money.
Absolutely.
What do we have left in the fund?
Have about I'd say 330,000 probably.
And are people still applying?
Yes.
And are those people, so are we, I'm just looking at the list of those that are still waitlisted and those that were, long-standing businesses in the city who probably could use some of the storefront improvement on those corridors versus somebody who's coming in new, redoing a building to start a new business. I mean, I think that's great to be able to help them, but I also think somebody who's been here 30 plus years, 20 plus years also, it's a little disheartening when they've been in business for a long time and then they feel like everybody else is getting it and I'm not getting it. And I get what you're saying, the scope of what they may be doing. So I guess maybe we can have a conversation just to see what that looks like so I can better understand why certain businesses, are maybe not eligible or currently waitlisted to try to see efforts to help some of them who could probably benefit from a little bit.
Yeah. And to be clear, I do really try to do that. I try to
I believe that.
get out there as much as I can. And I've lived here my whole life. So, I mean, like Miller's is a good example. Like a lot of people said, oh my God, why did you give money to Miller's? They were fine. And I'm like, Miller's is an East Providence institution.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
And then when we met with them, when I went there, it's funny because people only get half of the story if they're looking from the outside. So when I actually went there, and this is what I mean, there's so much gray. When I went there, I learned that the owners of Miller's now are actually the grandchildren of the original owners.
Right.
And they had just taken over Miller's during the pandemic. And so I was like, even though they'd been there technically for 50 years, this was a brand new generation that was taking on this burden, and they were taking on the burden of now buying the building and owning the building for the first time during a pandemic. And I'm like, they have to qualify for storefront. I mean,
Right.
even
Well,
though
and every business has suffered from, we got hit with back to back to back whammies. The pandemic, that prolongated illness, parts of the economy, trying to find workers, people were all at home, then the bridge. And so, these businesses are hurting. I mean, Councilman Rio brings up some good technical points, but I'm hanging my hat on the fact that this is some federal monies for an industry that has been affected. And I'm sure somewhere down the line, some Washington bureaucrat will let us know if something was done wrong. But in the meantime, let's keep these businesses afloat. I mean, and you're not saying that. I know. You're our
My
businessman.
business survives off the hospitality. One of my businesses survives off the hospitality industry. So to Councilman Lawson, I am not trying to be negative. I am just trying to cover the basis for the city of East Providence. When I start reading this and having sat down with Treasury people before, there's a lot of red flags here. That's what I'm saying. It's just like with counterfeit money, the Secret Service. If it's counterfeit money, it's counterfeit money. You can't say, I thought it was a joke. It's counterfeit money.
Well, I thank you for all your hard work.
Okay, I think we've discussed it enough. I'm sure Melissa and legal can look into some of this, and there's some valid points that you bring up, Councilman Rigo. And the bottom line is, let's keep these businesses afloat. Thank you. Next item, please.
The first item under continued business was tabled earlier. And then updates from February 20th, 2024, status of DEM permit for Kent Heights and potential impact to timeline. Councilman Lawson, did you already review that?
So these are continued. So item A and B, we don't need to discuss.
Right.
Item D is going to be part of Patricia's. Item E, item F, those are all going to be discussed under Mayor Communications. We already did the impact of the Washington Bridge. Pedestrian crossing signal devices in disrepair on Broadway and Fire Station. Do you need more on that, Anna?
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't get an update.
Yeah, so C and item 4.
So let's go to item letter C. Madam Clerk, if you could read that title, that heading, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Souza.
Update on the inquiry regarding pedestrian crossing signaling devices in disrepair at Broadway and the fire station location and Warren Avenue and 7th Street location. Councilwoman Souza.
So I put this back on the docket. I had brought it up a few meetings ago. And again, just noticing, walking through the city at certain crosswalks, the signaling device at that crosswalk was not operable. And these are on major roadways such as Broadway, where there's a lot of traffic, Warren Avenue, again, a lot of traffic. So vehicles aren't always vigilant about seeing people looking to cross or stopping while people are crossing, and having functioning crossing signaling devices, I think, is really important to public safety. So brought it up to our administration here a few meetings ago, and just wondering where we sit with any updates on that.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I did speak with Director Borges on the signaling with the fire station and those two locations, Warren Ave and 7th Street. I can tell you that we're working on getting prices for the signaling, but are slated for placement this coming spring. That was the update. There's additional work to be done to diagnose some of those signaling issues because some don't have meter circuits. So we are working on that.
Okay. So when you say that it doesn't have functioning electricity,
I believe that's an issue with the electrical.
do you think, and I'm sure this is something that they'll probably look into, but I've seen in other communities or businesses where they're using solar as a means of, generating electricity. And I think that's a good go green way of getting some of that.
And actually, if I may, I'm not sure if I need to wait for their communications, but just to go back to the Glen Lyon lighting issue, I did speak with Director Borges, and we are looking into different solar options, not to move away from some of your issues,
No, please.
Councilwoman, but while we I have the mic, so we are looking into different solar options. We've had a better sense of decisions the next few weeks, and we can get all of those options and costs, and then bring that back to the council. I just wanted to, when you brought up solar, it reminded me of that.
Yep, thank you. That's all I have.
So I think that covered that list.
Item G, do you need that, Councilwoman Souza? Review requested financials received February 20th.
Oh, do you? Yep, we can go over that.
So yes, I do have all of the data that you referred to. Malcolm, Director Moore should be here. He can speak on it, but in the meantime, I can provide you with all of it was the capital expenditures and some of the projects. They were sorted by years appropriated and all of the updates on that. So I do have a packet that I can give through the clerk for each of you.
We can wait and see if the director comes in.
We can move on.
We can move on to, we did discuss, number 3, okay, hold on. Here comes Director Moore.
Well, I don't know if you want me to go over a quick overview or if you have questions or.
Yeah, you can do that. Thank you, Malcolm. Appreciate it.
Okay, currently, one of the questions that was asked was the unencumbered. It is starting the calendar year of 2024, we had 4.9 million. The council approved 1.8 million for capital. That leaves 3.1 million unencumbered. That does not include any transfer that may occur due to the FY23 audit. So there will be some transfer. I've mentioned before, the motor vehicle, $2.8 million. So that could be a $2.8 million swing that could go into capital. You could have anywhere from about $500,000 to say $3.5 million going into capital. Above and beyond the 3. So you could end up with almost 7 million. Or it could be 4 million. When I get an answer from the auditors, I will let you know.
Thank you.
So I printed the capital account 2 different ways, but the current budget is of open items is 14.4 million. Year-to-date expenses has been 6.5. There have been 2.6 million of open POs, leaving 5.1 million that has yet to be encumbered. And, if you look at them, on one of them, it'll say sorted by year appropriated. If you look at that one, the first one says
Pierce Field, which was appropriated back in 2016. You can see how long some of these have been open. One from 16, one from 18, 5 from 19, right? And then the second one is just broken down by department. So if you wanted to see how many, like there seemed to be 2 open items from the council, both from 21, tree planting at Willett Point and the Willett Pond improvements. Both of those are in process. So like the tree planting, a budget of 25,000. Once is so far $9,419, and an open PO of $7,160, leaving a balance of $8,421. And if you don't see anything in year-to-date expenses or encumbered, that means that it could be in process, but no purchase order has been issued.
So for that example of the tree planting at Bullock's Point, the remaining budget of 8,421, is that, are we looking to still use those funds for trees in that area? Or are we returning that to the capital funds?
That, well, it is still there to be spent. At some point, somebody will make the determination, say, once out of the 7,000 gets spent, is that enough, or do they want to use more? At some point, we'll go to them and they'll say they're done. And then at that point, so I also gave you a list of the ones that were closed. And I think that list was like 40. So you can see the ones that were closed in fiscal year 2023.
On the ARPA summary fund, the second page, project 000, mayor projects, 14 million. What's that?
Well,
Spent 10 million, open POs 4 million.
yes, originally the projects would come in. We didn't have categories to put them in, so they all got put into one category. And so those all ran through the mayor. If you look below it, you'll see the 12.2 that was allocated by the council a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take the 27.7 million minus out the 12.2, you've got a little bit in salary and benefits, and the rest were lumped in together. And
Okay, can we get a breakdown of where that 14 million went? Please?
yes,
Okay.
I don't have that with me.
And I guess some other questions, but I can email those questions. But
I mean, it was all lumped into one account, but there was 2 or 3 million for the seawall.
yeah, no, I get that. We would just like a detailed breakdown. We understand that it was the seawall, a bunch of other projects, but we would just like to see where all the money went. Okay.
The purchase orders line by line.
Okay, I can double check. It's kind of a data dump that we get.
But
So-
I could send that, I'll send that through Patricia that has which department.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of information here. It's, I don't know if you want to try to digest this or you want to email Patricia or myself.
Yeah, I'm going to email you. I mean,
I'll digest it and
yeah.
all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you for being here, Malcolm. I appreciate
Thank you, Malcolm.
your service.
Congratulations. On the days that you don't have to come in front of us, but we'll have a formal presentation for you.
It'll be a few more times.
Oh, yeah.
Can you take me with you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
item number 3 is not much to say unless someone wants to add something. As a standing item, we've just left the Washington Bridge update on the agenda, just in case something were to develop, say, after the period of advertising the agenda, so we wouldn't be able to talk about it. So in general, I'll open it up with some
Yeah.
comments.
I just want to keep reiterating to our fellow townies that it's going to be fluid for the next couple of years. I think we pretty much see the tea leaves that it's going to be a tear down rebuild, and they're saying it's 2 years. We know traffic is sometimes not bad, sometimes very bad. It's kind of hit or miss. I heard Saturday night there was a big backup. I've been driving to work and I don't have an issue, but I see the backup on the highway. So we understand everybody's frustrated, but it's going to be fluid. Traffic patterns are going to be changed. You know, what's happening today ain't going to be the same when schools are out in the summer. So I commend the mayor, the administration for all they've been doing to keep it flowing within the city. We do know the backup is occurring because 195 got reduced. So getting onto the highway was problematic because the lanes were smaller. And we understand the frustration of everybody. And, you know, hopefully, like we said, the General Assembly can look into some compensation for the businesses. But I'm not going to ask people to be patient. I mean, you got every right to be mad. You got every right. I'm mad. You know, what was the movie Network? I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take it anymore. You know, at some point you gotta start holding people accountable. So, my fellow townies, if you're mad, be mad, but understand it's going to be fluid like this for the next couple of years. Thank you.
Councilwoman?
I just would again like to reiterate an ongoing thing that we mentioned. Please, you know, when you're driving, let's not block the squares. Let's not block the emergency exits for our first responders to get out of the firehouses. The traffic control and officers at those details are doing their best. It does become frustrating when you're in a straight lane and then try to merge into that turn right lane when everybody's been backed up for 10, 15 minutes in the lane trying to get on the highway, and you speed down and cut them off to get on the highway. So we all know the situation that we're in, just like my fellow councilman mentioned. So let's not add to it by not practicing good driving etiquette. And one of the things that I do want to, you know, just briefly put out there to my fellow council members is I am looking into different things that under our purview as a council are able to provide our small businesses, similar to the initiative with the storefront improvement. Perhaps there are other things that we could do to help our small businesses who have been directly impacted. And I know all types of businesses, from mechanics to nail salons to tow companies to Uber drivers, you know, everything is being affected. I think, you know, if we look hard and put our heads together, there's probably something small but that beneficial that we can do to help our businesses in lieu of the Small Business Association only being able to provide loans to the businesses, which is, again, something that time and time again they're saying is not what they're looking to get into. They're going through the steps because it's there, but it's not the avenue that they're finally going to take. You know, it's not going to be their final action plan. I know that there is going to be a meeting to discuss the small business situation here in the city with state and federal delegation coming up this week, I believe. So hopefully some good information will be able to report it out after that meeting. So again, thank you to everybody who has been doing their best to navigate through these hard times and who are struggling with their business, but still showing up and doing the best that they can. Know that we are working diligently in the back, trying to help you in any way that we possibly can.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
You all set, Councilwoman
I am,
Souza?
sir.
To elaborate on what Councilwoman Souza just said, we have a line in our city council budget about celebrations. So a light bulb went off in my head that may be similar to other cities and towns have restaurant weeks, that we take some of that money and we have, going along with what Councilman Lawson talked about as far as helping them and his resolution, is that we have a restaurant week for the city of East Providence, that we get the word out that the city's open and we come up with it. And it would be a coordinated effort, I think, with everybody here to promote the hospitality industry in the city of East Providence. Probably, again, we're at March 5th today, maybe sometime in June to, if we can pull it off. But I think we need to do that. And it's a good way of helping the community. And we take the leadership role together with the administration to help promoting. And, we can work together and come up with the ideas and help these people. I mean, everything we're doing is good. I'm not going to sit here and bang the drum and talk about what happened. So now, and as Councilman Lawson said, it's going to be a couple of years. So we can do things like that. So making an attraction to come into the city, I think it would be very helpful. And
That's a great idea.
promote it.
Yeah. Melissa, did we have like, when the Arts Council, we had it where if you visited various things, you could get a sticker and then offer the prize or something like that. Maybe you can work on something that if you visit so many local restaurants, there's, I don't know, picture with Bob, But all these are great ideas.
From away.
Yeah.
Councilman Fogarty.
We all know it's a disaster. So we're not here to say anything that we can do to help you, except that we will help you. It's a federal emergency. We should be federally funding and assisting our communities, our businesses, our people, from the kids, the schools, the sports, the buses. Everything is affected. We are all affected miserably. Everywhere you go, you can't turn, you can't drive, you can't stop, you can't do anything. We're doing the best we can. I am. And that meeting should be good Saturday with the Senate, and hopefully we get federally funded emergency funds for everyone in this city. Thank you.
I have one more thing.
Yes, Councilman.
This would be going towards Director Resendes if she could. You don't have to get up, but with the this is a bridge related, and it's even more. I'm getting a lot of phone calls about the lighting at the Henderson Bridge, which is more impactful. There's no lights there. I mean, the rotary isn't finished yet, and I mean, between the lines and now that the lights are completely off, which just makes it like
So that goes all the way up Massasoit to Waterman Avenue, and that's something that I've mentioned numerous times, and the reply was they're not finished.
all the lights are off. I mean, and they're not helping.
Very dark.
It's so they're making matters worse for DOT. Get temporary lights. I mean, we can get you can get the you can get the stadium lighting that goes up generating until the permanent ones are there. But it's
It's
in
really the
rain
whole
and everything,
area.
Yeah, it's like being in a horror movie over there. And you got people going around in circles and nobody knows what to do. I mean, there needs to be some sort of lighting before there's a major accident over there. I mean, temporary lighting that can come on. I mean, I'm not asking for, beautiful lights or one every 2 telephone poles, which is a tradition, but we need to have lighting, especially around that ring around the Rosie.
So isn't that DOT?
Yeah, I just said to talk to DOT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've mentioned it, but it's a,
Yeah, because you mentioned up near Crook Point too,
Yeah.
right.
at work over there. So
That whole area from the end of Waterman Ave where it meets North Brow,
yeah.
going down to the bridge, and then even on Waterfront where it connects to Valley Street. Also, there's like one light in that whole section. So those curbings are high, they're new, people aren't used to it. Even people who do drive it, it's still an ongoing
Now
issue.
you got me thinking, are there lights on Waterfront?
Not really.
Anymore.
No, oh, okay.
But they've created new,
Yeah,
there's
yeah, they
new
moved it.
ramps, not ramps, but access points.
Right.
And so there's not lighting that supports, efficient
Gotcha.
lighting that supports those
Mhm.
areas, so.
And it's gotten worse over there because there used to be a light right near Honeybird, a traffic light, And that traffic, they took the traffic light down as well as the regular street lights. So it's even darker.
Right.
And
So I can definitely, thank you. I can definitely relay those concerns back to RIDA and their folks there. But as just for the general public, as you mentioned, every time there's any kind of project or change in the roadway, especially with a rotary, we know that, behavior, you have to adjust, and it's going to take time for people to learn that rotary. And even as they're constructing it, I take a ride by just to make sure that I learn how to use it all the time. But I will bring back the lighting. And you're referring to the rotary area as well as the bridge in terms of the lighting?
I'm not too worried about the bridge.
Not the
We're
bridge.
worried
Right.
about.
More the
lighting is there,
rotary
yes.
area.
Okay, more of that rotary area.
Avenue.
And
Yeah.
down, and down
down.
towards,
Neighbor.
They're not
Waterman.
worried about
and
Providence.
down towards Waterman Avenue.
Yeah.
Waterman, so where Waterman and then Waterfront meets.
Okay.
And I don't know that you know this answer, but is the rotary, it's hard for me to tell whether or not that pattern is going to stay that pattern and that size, or if it's just temporary.
There's a lane on the right side, so when we're coming around, heading towards the bridge on the right side, right now it's currently one lane, but once it's complete, it will be two lanes, so that will be much wider.
Okay, because I do notice that it's awkwardly tight coming from Providence to
right.
make the turn. And I've noticed that tractor trailers are having a difficult time with that. So if it's going to only stay that way, it's going to be a long-term problematic area, along with it only being 3 lanes instead of a 4-lane bridge, which doesn't make. They've already built it.
That's enough on the bridge for tonight. Thank you.
Ooh,
Yes.
unless you're through you, Council President, unless I can just, you brought up some issues with the businesses. I can hold it till Mayor Communications. Or
No, while you're there, go ahead.
So in terms of the Washington Bridge and some of the ideas that were brought up, I just want to reiterate between the resolution and then some of the conversation. So Mayor De Silva has had weekly meetings with our local delegation, with Director Alviti, with the governor, with the Secretary of Commerce, Liz Tanner, on various programs to help our small businesses. I can tell you for certain, as you know, with the mayor, he spoke with the governor, and anytime he has his ear, he will share some information. And he did walk the length of the St. Patrick's Day parade and was walking with the governor. And the entire time, what people didn't realize is he was talking bridge and what could be discussed and how we can help our small businesses. We have spoken with the senator's office as well and SBA. I just wanted to report out because they're not here this evening, and that there's a delay in the business. The delay in the businesses with the approval has to do specifically with the closing documents, just in case you're getting any calls from small businesses. That's the issue. The numbers are expected to grow at a steady rate. And we just want to reiterate that businesses can still apply up until the 16th. And SBA typically is only here in terms of a recovery center for 4 weeks, but the mayor really advocated for them to stay for 3 months, and that is, it never happens. So, but we're also working with the secretary on several different programs that we'll be able to report out on. And the mayor had an idea to also, we have the PEG-RI show that we do, and we're going to start inviting our small businesses to come on because, as you know, the mayor is always saying, East Providence is open for business. So if we could, as a team, continue to relay that information, we'll be getting small businesses on the show to talk a little bit about their services, what they offer. So it could be a restaurant, it could be, an auto sales location. So that's coming too.
I know through social media, I've asked unofficially, and we all know everyone reads social media. They may not comment, they read it. And I've said if everyone in East Providence could go once or twice a week out to eat, this will be a good shot in the arm to our restaurants. We have some of the best in the area. I think most of us could afford that at least once a week, whether it's just a small fast food place or one of the bigger restaurants. It might sound a little corny.
No, I
little
use the
hyperbole,
hashtag
but-
eat local.
Yeah.
And, I go to lunch, whatever, eat local, maybe.
I mean, prices of groceries are so high, it's probably not more expensive to just stop in a restaurant once a week in East Providence. And some of us, like Councilman Fogarty, could afford to go 5 nights a week.
Hey, I went to Italian Deli today.
You know
I
it.
treated.
And then you're an Irishman.
I treated somebody.
So if we all kind of pitch in, I mean, this thing's not going to go away quickly nor easily, and there is no easy answer. We have a lot of experts out there saying, do this and do that. There, you know, it would be done if it were that easy. So we'll just keep plugging away at this. Thank you. Next item, please.
Licensing discussion, receive report from city solicitor regarding local and state legislation and fees. City council.
I attached the report. Now indicates the number of licenses we issue for each category. You can see there are a lot of them that are zeros because they're no licenses. I think they're probably outdated. We continue to update this with local legislation, but frankly, I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for enabling legislation where there are 0 issued. So I'm looking for a little guidance as to, I know that you were looking for maybe setting the ranges differently than if they're not at the maximum or at the maximum, maybe lower, if there's a range, but I'll have to discuss it now, but we'll see the state law, and if there's a range that's permitted, we can give you the range, what we currently put by ordinance.
So when will you be giving us your formal opinion or presentation? I refer back to the 15th of February, 2024 email that you sent to us.
Yeah, this is getting close to the formal. In other words, I am where there's state law blanks, which basically says I couldn't find the state law reference to it, and there's a 0 on the number of licenses issued. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for a state law when we don't even issue the license in the city. It's not eligible. So I'm getting pretty close to the end here. Maybe a couple more. I got to look for a drain layers license, which I learned today that maybe. But, so that's where we're at.
So we are responsible for issuing licenses, correct?
Correct. Those that are authorized by state law.
That are authorized by state law. So as the authorizing agent, we can uphold a license if they haven't met the criteria, correct?
You say uphold?
Well, if we can revoke, we can deny, we can revoke, we can hold a license until criterias are met.
Yeah, there are certain licenses that have very specific criteria. There are some other licenses that don't have any criteria, to be honest with you. So,
yeah. So if we were to revoke a license and then the applicant satisfies the need, again, and also using the word deny, that applicant or that application needs to come in front of us again for us to approve it. Nobody else in government can say you're all set now, even though we said no.
correct.
Okay. I just wanted that on record to make sure that if there's, after the fact, if there was anything that was held up, or we would be notified if we're holding up something for some pertinent reason, that we would give it to get-go. If we weren't satisfied that building inspector Walker, fire marshal, anybody had some issues, that again, we would be notified.
Well, I would say that if we sit as licensing agents and revoke a license or
Deny
change it or deny, and then the problem were met and solved, then we would sit again and issue it or reverse our vote. So it's on the record. That's good.
By most licenses are granted contingent upon meeting all legal criteria. It's kind of a broad statement, so that
Yep.
includes the CO from the building official, any type of other state licenses that may be needed.
Mhm.
I'm not aware of any licenses that have been issued without the local authority. All licenses get issued by the clerk's office.
Yep.
So excuse me, Madam Clerk, I'm only addressing you because the solicitor just brought up the clerk's office. Has there been any licenses that we've revoked, rejected, that have since been approved by your office?
Well, we've held no hearings to revoke
Well, that's what I'm
anything.
saying. So now, I'm just following up on what the solicitor said, that it would go through the clerk's office. So nothing has gone through your office that hasn't come through Wisconsin.
If you revoked or denied something, then it would come back before you as a new application.
So that we're following the process, correct? I just want to make sure because I just felt a little queasy there, and maybe it's just me. So I'm just putting everybody on record that do not circumvent this body. That's all I'm asking.
Not aware of any.
Oh, I'm.
Body.
Oh.
Again, there's a difference. There was a determination made on another license that license was. We didn't need one.
I'm not talking, I'm just saying in general, I'm not bringing up a issue. I'm just saying moving forward here, that this body is the body. And maybe it wasn't this way before, and it might not be this way in January 2027, but until then, this is the way it's going to be. And I feel more comfortable that we get all the approvals from all the departments, from the fire department, police department, building inspector, before we give the final write-off. I didn't like to find out that we're granting something and they haven't done A, B, C, or D, and we're ultimate licensing body. And again, this is just covering ourselves and doing it properly. And this isn't being anti-business, this isn't being anything. This is just being protective. We are the people, we are the trustees of the city. Like it or not, that's the way I feel.
But that's all true, but just remember, there are some licenses that are granted subject to police, fire, we're not going to hold back on.
Oh, yeah.
They don't
I think
get
we're
the-
saying we want those sign-offs before we
want those
vote.
They
on
don't
it.
get the
We
license.
want those sign-offs before. That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
I'm not sure that's what the,
Yeah, that's our preference.
That's our preference. That's what we said a couple of times, and I'm just reiterating that. And if we have to put that in a motion, if we have to make that an ordinance or something, so be it. Because I'm not going to sit here and be in some other city in town and some tragedy happens and just like.
yeah, so far, I know of none
But,
that have happened.
Things happen, just like, we talked
Yep.
about the fence at Glen Line, and I had somebody make eyes at me in the audience, and then what happened? Sooner or later, a kid.
All right,
gets
well,
shot.
that's
No, but I'm
different,
saying,
right.
it can happen anywhere. I'm just saying, I'm here to protect the people of East Providence. And moving forward, I don't want a license come in front of us until, as council, that if it needs police, fire, building inspector, where it comes, we get the package, we're all set. We're the ultimate. If we have to put that in writing, we'll put it in writing, a resolution or anything, but that's.
No, you just have to vote it down, that's all. When the clerk brings forward licenses, table, vote it down, approve it, whatever. We have that ability now. We just,
Chair,
yes, Councilman.
That's not fair to the business that did the work.
Yeah,
So
well, that's
now
what I'm saying, you got to be
can't have
flexible.
them That do the work.
Yeah.
I agree with the process of us knowing that the proper procedures for everybody getting in the licensing.
We're just
will be
asking.
approved. So I understand that. Well, you don't want to handicap the businesses.
We're not handicapping.
I understand. You want permission from all departments before we vote yes or no.
So
We're signing off on things that
I
we
agree.
think that it's been signed off on, and then we
We
find
already
out.
did it.
Then we find out later that the building inspector has a problem, or maybe the fire marshal has a
I
problem,
agree.
and that's what I'm
100%
saying.
agree.
So,
Right, and then we can we can tighten that up, but those licenses were not given.
No,
Just so I just don't want wait a minute, let me finish. I just don't want the appearance and the perception to get out there that a business comes before us everything is in order according to the clerk's office, except maybe a police report, a fire department report, because they haven't had the time to get out there yet. And the perception might be that, okay, that business has been operating. No, they're not. They're waiting, the subject to. Now, we can eliminate that totally. And we maybe want to talk to the police chief and the fire chief and others about how you're going to handle that. You know, who's going to do it? Who has the time? But I hear what everyone's saying. I agree with that. But no license, no business is operating until everything is complied with. It might not be that night because it's subject to. So the police department will say, okay, I got 6 places we got to run out and check, you know, or who checks the sprinkler alarms. Nothing operates or gets open until those things are done. Now, we can delay it a little more and say, you know, we're not even going to vote on it.
Right, but how would we be delaying it? Would the sign-offs are going to delay it as well? All we're asking is the sign-offs be done before we vote.
Oh, you would delay it because it would take more time.
How would it take more time? You're still waiting for the sign-offs.
It's so point A, B, C. So they come to us on February 5th.
Right, and the stuff isn't in yet.
Yeah. So I mean, so we sign off.
So
on
we
it.
can't vote on it that night because you don't have all the sign
But we
But
have.
we have been. That's the problem.
All right, you're not here getting my point.
No, I fully
All
get
right.
your
I get
point.
your point.
Yeah.
So what the vice chair is trying to say
Say
is
is-
that check the boxes, have it all approved,
Yeah.
come here, get your license.
It's simple, you know.
Yeah, as long as the perception isn't out there that somebody's operating a business without the proper.
Nobody
I
said
don't think that's the issue.
Nobody
No,
said that.
nobody's simply that.
Nobody hit. The 3 of us haven't said that. Or the 2 of us, more vocal, haven't said that. It's just like when you go for a driver's license. Did you take driver's ed? Did you take your Did you take your driving thing? Did you pass the written test? Bing, 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 and then you get then you get it. I mean, we're the final arbiter. I mean, that's it.
I'm fine. You know, disagree with
President?
some intent here, but that's
I mean,
fine.
they have to do it anyway. So you know.
Council President,
Yes,
may I just clarify?
you may.
So tonight, is it the decision of the council to be the final word? So you want to change the order and that nothing comes on the docket until it's signed off?
Until
by-
police, fire, and buildings sign off.
Or whoever.
Or whoever, anybody.
There are some that the state needs sign off, so we.
Yeah. It could be 8 things.
Well, the state's a little different because they're going to wait to see what we vote.
Well, but if you want,
That's the problem.
I'm talking about the sign off from the city.
I'm talking about the city stuff.
The city sign offs, we want to see those done first before they come before.
but
us.
aren't there some requirements of the state before a business could operate?
Yeah, but we're not.
Yeah, but they usually wait to see
Wait to see
what we do.
But we want to have the applicable departments that have to sign off first before they come to us.
Makes perfect sense.
It makes, I mean, it's logic. I mean,
We can do it that way.
Yeah, we can do
That's
whatever we
what we're
want.
asking. All city sign offs be done before it comes before us.
I just wanted to clarify that. Well, thank
No,
you.
that's fine.
Put it on the agenda
Correct.
for approval.
Right.
Until every sign off's there. Yep, that's all we're asking.
that's, yeah.
Just want to make it clear. Also, there are some businesses that may be operating without a license because we don't know about it, right?
No, we get that.
There's some people just do things, they open up a
Yeah,
business, and
illegally.
then we find out
get
about
that.
it, then you have an enforcement.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that often, but
Usually a fire or a police call gets it done, and that's how they get on the radar.
someone complains or
Or
something.
so- Yeah, exactly. So,
All right, so the clerk has a clear process going forward. We're good. Next item, please.
I just want to say with that process, I need to visit that with Miss Mello and make sure
Oh.
that we can apply that for pending license.
Well, there's no if.
it-
This council wants it done, so what can we say? There's no if.
Well, the
Okay.
pending ones,
There are,
you're still waiting for the sign offs, right?
they haven't come in front of us yet.
Yeah.
okay.
But we haven't approved it, so it, you know,
No, I think the city clerk is mentioning licenses that have been approved pending them finishing the
Yeah,
process.
if we already
we
voted,
already approved
absolutely.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
so this
saying
is moving
this
forward.
is mo- This is from
Yeah, from-
March 6th on.
Tonight on.
Yeah.
But I don't think we haven't approved. Anything, have we?
Yeah.
Okay. It was pending or approved?
Pending or.
Been approved subject to meeting all other legal requirements.
There are
Not gonna go
pending
back.
that have been approved but have not been issued because they're waiting for other sign-offs. So the applicant isn't holding the license.
And they're not operating. So we're good.
Right.
We're just saying, moving forward.
Moving forward.
From the 6th of March, moving forward, this is the way we want.
But get back to my list. Is there anything else on this list that you need? A couple things on that. But you can get back to me on it, but they're complete.
Well, obviously, the first one, I know liquor licenses, we're at the capacity based on 48,000.
Well, it's the cost, right? The fees.
Oh, yeah, no, I was talking about how many licenses can be issued.
Thank you. Next item.
Appointment, reappointment requiring council confirmation. Raymond Pulia, appointment to Personnel Hearing Board, vacant position term to expire 12/6/27, appointment number 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Lawson, seconded by Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. 5-0.
I think item 3, we went through the projects without.
Yes.
And so we could just enter everything.
Well, no, there's some ARPA projects we need the update on.
Oh, that you.
Yeah. Yeah, so Patricia, we gave her that list a couple meetings ago, so she's gonna be talking about all the projects.
Yep, that was on your docket item, right?
Yeah, but because
We moved it.
we had it on the docket items, but also under the mayor report, so.
Perfect, thank you.
And at some point, it may be a good idea if we kind of come together and let Patricia know what info we want, how we want to present it. Because I know we get the packet on Friday, we got to do research all weekend and stuff, and the same for them. So, stuff like this, if we could have, opera projects, she's going to have it on, so we don't need it under council members going forward. But it's always your right to do it.
Yeah, we want to avoid duplication and save time and efficiency. Indeed, sure.
If that's okay. So I'm just going to start from the top. So the adaptive playground equipment, there wasn't going to be any additional updates other than, what we had said, the money is being planned to be spent on the installation of it. But Council Vice President, you had asked about the equipment earlier. So the adaptive equipment has been chosen, and we can ask the contractor for the presentation. I may even have it in an email and we could forward that on in terms of what was chosen for the adaptive playground. Moving right along to Kent Heights, we talked about this at length, the presentation, the DEM, stormwater permits, we talked a lot about that. The groundbreaking on the 15th, so I'll just skip over that.
And the bathrooms that were mentioned, they're the compost type.
Or Kent Heights, I believe.
But
that
Ken
was
Heights, yeah, they're
the-
solar powered. I don't believe there's,
I'll have to double check. I wasn't at that meeting, but so I don't want to say.
yeah, I believe they're the compost
That was-
types that
yeah,
you're
just
seeing at the
us.
state parks, yeah.
What is the?
Which if they were good, we could look at other parks too.
What was the groundbreaking for?
Oh, so that was what we mentioned earlier, the groundbreaking for April 15th, that we would reach out to the council for invitation for Kent Heights. Make it
And just to go back for the adaptive playground equipment, you mentioned about getting a presentation to the council. Do we have it? Can we set that up for the next council meeting?
Oh, it was the presentation that was done at the Kent Heights community meeting, but in that presentation had the information about the adaptive equipment, playground
Which one they
equipment.
picked?
But you wanted to see if we could.
Can you
present
can we
it
send that in?
For the next meeting? Yes, of course.
I think Kevin has the master plan.
If you could just
That's what you're
email it,
looking at.
is fine, or.
Do we actually need a full presentation?
No,
Yeah.
you can email it, that's fine. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't attend the meeting, I was out.
Okay, great. And let's see, placemaking, and I know Melissa's here, but the RFQ was issued to paint the mural at Crescent Park seawall. The responses are due by March 7th, and we have had, I can tell you, a huge response. I'm still getting phone calls just from the press release, but it was covered in the media, and there's a lot of interest.
Who is going to decide the winner? How do you guys
It's gonna go through
determine?
that the RFP process?
Right, but who is the RFP? Is it through planning? Is it through,
Planning, correct.
so the planning department's going to determine what mural gets put up?
They'll have to make sure that all the applicants are meeting all the required
Okay.
documentations through the.
Will they have any public input?
Good question. I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, based on,
I only say that because there's a lot of interest and some want the historical Crescent Park, some want something nice
They
and
would have to
colorful.
meet exactly those.
I'm not a creative. I never claim, but I do know there's a lot of interest and it may not be bad if you don't want the public to decide, like voting like American Idol, but wouldn't be bad. to
I don't
get-
have the
I don't think it
RFQ
would
in
be
front of
bad.
me to have it, get a poll to see what kind of things people would like.
I believe through the RFQ, it was already designated in terms of what it would include. I don't have it in front of me. I can pull it up on my phone in terms of, but it talked about the historical, a good representation of the city of East Providence. I had to say the city of East Providence. So those are some of the things I can think of off the top of my head that were included in the release in the RFQ.
What was the price that we were setting? Because I'm just wondering citywide where we are with placemakers along the corridors.
Bear with me one moment. Let me pull it up. Right. Okay, so I do have the specifications that are in the RFQ. I can email this or I can go through all of it. It's a few pages long. So it's,
You can
let's
email
see.
it, but if you just give me the price, if that's available, what we're designated.
Right now, it's request for qualifications at this
Okay.
point.
So we haven't set aside what we think.
So I can read just into record because it was asked. So there was no price set.
Okay.
So the city of East Providence is seeking qualifications from artists or artist teams to design and implement a mural on beachfront concrete. Because it's a request for qualifications, the 10-acre city park is located in Bullocks Point. So I can skip through all that because you all know the history of that. But the specifications are here, so I can send it all. But as far as price, no price has been set.
And where's the money coming from?
I'll have to confirm that.
Thank you.
I want to say it's a grant, but I don't want to misspeak.
So just to follow up the placemaker, where we are with that.
Well, she's got a full list.
Oh, does she?
Yeah. And placemaking's on it.
And that
No,
was
she's
the-
mentioned it
That
already.
was the update. Yep, that was why I brought up the mural was under placemaking.
Right, so I was just asking, I didn't hear, I'm sorry, I didn't hear where we were with the placemaking, other than you mentioned the mural.
Oh, just because what I'm doing is each week I'm taking the list, and if there isn't an update
Update.
from the previous week, and
Okay.
as of this week, the only update was the mural,
Mural, okay.
right? And I do also have that on here, that Melissa would be working on signage concepts. So Melissa could speak to that, I'm sure, much better than I'd be able to. That was the only update from planning that we received. And if you're okay, can.
Yep, you can move on, thank you.
In terms of the splash pad, so we have the grant to cover part of the cost of the splash pad at Providence Street Park, which was submitted to DEM in 2023. The grant would cover 200,000 of the estimated $250,000 project. We did meet with the designer today to discuss location and other details of the splash pad, and the designer has some suggestions, and that was all laid out with our planning department today.
The grant was 200,000.
So the grant was to cover part of it. Let's see, it was submitted to DEM in 2023. Yes, the grant would cover the 200,000. We're waiting for confirmation on that. Yes, yes, based on today's meeting.
That's matching grant that we're doing?
So it would cover, the grant would cover the 200,000 of the $250,000 cost.
So we already have the money to get it going. The request came from the administration that they apply for the grant instead of using the ARPA Act first. And I was fine with that. My only thing is by this summer that it be done for the kids. I can't see postponing this project, waiting for a grant. But, you know, hopefully they let us know soon.
And Councilman, just to answer your question, yes, it was those compostable bathrooms that we had when we took our little tour.
If people are curious, they have some at Haynes Park. If they want to go try them out.
And
Let us-
Madam Clerk, just to clarify, I know you asked if we have the grant yet, so we haven't had confirmation, but we have some favorable information, and then there'll be the $50,000 match, so that'll bring it to the 250.
So we've allocated, we set aside 200,000 if, when we receive the grant. We'll take 50 out of the 200,000, so 150 will be back for use elsewhere.
I would have to double check that that would be the case. The project is 250,000, and the grant would, if we receive the grant, would be for the grant's for 200,000.
Right. So then we would only have to contribute 50,000, which would leave a balance of 150,000 in that line item that we allocated 250. So that would go back into a pool. Okay. Thank you.
Go back into a pool that we would then reallocate,
Correct.
because we allocated the money.
Correct. That's my understanding.
It is,
Sorry, we're throwing you off.
no, that's okay. I had it all very organized, but we covered some of these things, so I'm just kind of going back.
The Clam Shack, the business incubator,
Yes, field ramp and AD.
yes, field.
I just wanted to give you the update. Pierce. Okay, now I found it. Sorry, I found my spot once you're ready. So going back to Pierce, so the grant application status. So we did meet with Senator Reed and Congressman Amo recently. The $2 million appropriation has passed the Senate, but we are awaiting passage in the House. We should have a resolution for council consideration at the next council meeting, but I just wanted to tell you, Councilman, we don't have that just yet. So we should have an answer by tomorrow.
Very cool.
So there will be an update to that.
And the only thing I asked too with the PS Field is, let's look at the whole picture. And not just, I mean, the stadium needs to be repurposed. So 2 million, we allocated how much? 500?
We allocated, yeah, but some of that funds went
All
to,
right, so we got
have
over
100.
$2 million to really do something nice for PS Stadium. And I just want us to think ahead, 5 years down the road, whatever. I mean, I think maybe adding locker rooms would be an added bonus. You know, we can bring in these soccer tournaments, stuff like that. So
And moving right along, the Oldham School, so the update since the last meeting was that the contract will be signed soon after council approval, which is scheduled for the next meeting, the March 19th meeting. So currently, we're making minor repairs to the roof, but what we've decided in terms of like the full replacement of the roof, excuse me, is that we felt that it wasn't wise to make any major improvements until we have the full feasibility study and see what it says. We did go out to RFP, as you know.
Right. So this is where I get confused. The building's not all a business incubator. Part of it, half of it. The front part, if we get the roof, windows, and doors fixed, we could start utilizing that for public use. And so I'm not understanding why. I understand the feasibility study to see what kind of business incubator stuff like that. But the building itself is going to have other purposes.
Right.
So by delaying the roof and just trying to patch it, you're just delaying being able to use it. I mean, the mayor said the other day he'd love to see it be used for like the summers
Right. The reason being is that the feasibility study could open opportunity for other funding, specifically, like this could open up access to economic development administration funds. So if the feasibility allows us to get funding to replace a roof, to do the windows, we didn't want to sort of put the cart before the horse.
But the money
Would be
is
there.
there to do it. But right now, we,
Right, but if we could have free money from the feds to do that.
so we're delaying this project over and over.
Well, only because the economic, with the Economic Development Administration funds, there's, it's to the tune of millions of dollars. So we wanted to be able to.
So what would, having a roof door and window, what would block us from still getting grant money like that?
I can't answer that.
And that's where our difference is on this project. To me, this thing should have already been open, waiting for the feasibility study for the business incubator.
That we are actually coming to, so just to finish what I was saying earlier, planning did vet the different terms, and we do plan to come to the next meeting with a resolution to enter into contract with a consultant. So we are moving along. It's just a little-
Well, on the business incubator, I'm talking about the condition of the
Building itself.
building so we can start using it, you know? There'd be so many purposes. I saw the initial plan. It was an awesome plan. And it's all on hold now.
I could tell you that through DPW and facilities, we are making minor improvements.
Right, but we got the money to do the full improvements. This is the frustration I'm hearing from myself and from residents. What's going on? What's going on? And so it's, we're waiting for the mayor. We're waiting for the mayor. So that's just my difference of where this project should be at this time.
I mean, I appreciate your honesty coming up here, but waiting for grants and everything you just talked about, that's like buying tonight's Mega Million or Powerball ticket. You could win or you might not. As my fellow council person is saying here, there is $1.5 million that's available to use immediately. And it's frustrated, just like the police station. We took office again in January last year, and beforehand, there were architects. And we can get revisions on the recreation center multiple times, but we can't get the police station architect here. And it's a standing building, say, knock down this wall, knock down this. We got $2.5 million that's going to be spent on that police station. It's not going anywhere. It is not going to go anywhere but the police station. And the same thing, and I'm one, but I can almost say from the others that his $1.5 million for Oldham School, 1.1.
No, it's one.
1 million is going to be spent on Oldham School. I mean, you can say I'm being brash, but I'm just being honest. That's why we did this exercise. We didn't play with monopoly money that day. This is where we want the project. This is where it's going to go. It's not going to go anywhere else.
Understood. With the, for instance, I did have a conversation with the chief and we were talking about the architect. And at this point, they weren't ready to even bring the architect forward because the architect might come to them with the full plan that isn't anywhere near the 2.5, but still meets all of the requests of the police department. And
Well,
that
yeah,
was
but
the
we-
discussion with the chief.
And that's fine. That's just, but we've sat here. We've heard them saying that they've been in the building. They've done this. It was the old council heard this, and we've heard this. And it might not be the 2.5 million. Maybe it's 2 million. Maybe it's 1.3. But we got to stop kicking the can down the road and delaying. The delays aren't going to get this money into any other project. That's what I'm saying. Until these projects that we allocated the money for are done. If they're not done, the money's not going anywhere.
We just want to be able to, specifically the administration, we want to be able to, for these funds to be able to go as far as they can, right? So if the architect is saying that it's only going to cost 1.5 to build this, and then we have those leftover funds, or if the renovation could be completed with funding through grants, and it could cover the whole cost, why wouldn't we as a municipality use those funds that we get from the federal government and then take that and use it to several other projects that the city could benefit from and the
I
taxpayers.
agree, but the clock is ticking on
Right.
this money.
And I can assure you, we are moving as fast as possible, Council Vice President. I wish you could walk one day in our office or follow DPW. All of you have said in the past how you have commended our staff and our DPW director and other directors on all the work that they do with the amount of manpower they have. I can stand here and tell you, council, to the whole council, that everyone works so diligently. I come in daily with a list and then, you're pulled in another direction, and it's all for the city. It's all for the taxpayers.
And no one,
We're very aware of that timeline. We're working
and I'm not.
meeting after meeting with architects, with consultants to not leave any money on the table. I can assure you, after 5 years of working for this mayor, the administration does not like to leave any money on the table.
No one here and myself, again, is questioning the work ethic of anybody.
Right,
in the
agreed.
city. But the process is waiting for a grant and the clock's ticking. Again, it goes back to playing Mega Millions or Powerball. You could or you could not, but you have firm money. I mean,
We are moving along in the process as well. So we're meeting with the architects, we're meeting with the consultants. We are moving parallel while we're waiting for grant funds. We're not stopping the project. I would hate for residents to think that we're just sitting here waiting idle and not doing anything awaiting these funds, because that's not the case. It's far from the case, actually.
again, it's March 5th. December 31st of 2024 is going
Coming
to be
fast.
here, and we have to have these, again, by law, we have to have things properly in place to
True.
be then used by that time. So we need to have that architectural drawing of the police station or Oldham School, because then we got to go put out for bids who's going to come in. We need to get this done, and then if it comes in, we got extra money, and this council can then reappropriate it somewhere else. I mean, that's the timeline. I mean, we were sitting, it was a year ago, I mean, it was in August that we went through this exercise, and now it's March, and basically we allocated the money, but nothing's happened. It's 6-7 months later, and we're in the same pattern. So before, and again, I'm not trying to cause a situation. I'm not trying to get gaslit, but I am just saying we have to move, because before long we're going to be outside on the first Saturday in December, lighting a Christmas tree. And I don't want to be here saying, oh, we got all this money. What are we going to do?
And I understand, Council Vice President, but to say that nothing is being done is very far from the truth, because and Councilman Lawson and I had this conversation earlier today. Things take time, and sometimes it's completely out of our hands. Melissa's in the audience; she could tell you. Watch Milkett Square, that sign. It's not for lack of due diligence and getting what we need done. We are aggressively working. All the staff, we're doing it. Sometimes it's completely out of our control.
And I understand that timeline from grants from the state or the federal, but we have the money.
Right. But it's not just grants. It's CRMC, it's permitting,
Well,
it's
that's what I'm saying.
law.
If we do it and in December, or October, November, it isn't going to be like, oh, it's not going to be here. It's still going to stay here, and it's going to be locked for these projects. It's not going to go anywhere. If the project isn't done by that time, it's going to be like, oh, we're going to move it somewhere else. We're not. I mean,
Right.
that's the way I feel.
Which is, I think, why initially the administration didn't want to lock the funds into particular projects,
Well,
because we were working.
The
with that.
administration told us the mayor's taken 14 million for his workforce development. That's why we had to do what we did.
Well, the person that used to represent the administration beforehand stated, and that's
Numerous meetings.
And that's why Councilman Lawson and Councilwoman Susan started the process of us locking down the money on projects that we thought were priorities.
Okay. I think that was the last.
The clam check.
Oh, I don't think we're on here. I don't think I have an update on the clam shack, other than when we drove out there, the.
Right, but the architect should have a basic design concepts. I just want to know how far along we are.
I had reached out to Tracy to get that, but I don't have it at this time.
Tracy's the project manager of this building?
No, I had reached out to get some information from her, but I'll
Okay.
have to get back.
So who's the project manager for these various things? Is there a designated person for the Oldham project, for the Clam Shack, for?
There aren't specific people designated to each particular project, but we're working as a team to get it all done. But I can get a follow-up
Okay.
to you on the clam shack.
I just want to know if there's somebody, like the Watchamoka sign, we were waiting for a DEM sign off. So like, who's the point person calling DEM saying, where's our sign off with? That's what we're hearing from our constituents and, you know, things like waiting for the roof doors and windows that, I mean, we don't need any sign offs for that, you know? So that's just where we're coming from, Patricia. I mean, you guys are doing great. You guys are awesome.
Possible.
Please don't think that we're trying to gang up or anything.
Nope,
It's,
I don't take any of this personally.
no, and we understand that waiting
Not
for
at all. I
sign offs
come
from
in,
DEM.
I'm just trying to work hard.
No, and like I told you, I think you're awesome doing this. It's just, we need to have these back and forth.
So a question, last question, I don't want to belabor this, but talk about the Oldham project. Now, the grant that we're waiting for that potentially is in the picture, and you probably answered this before, it gets confusing. When will we know about that?
So currently, we have the feasibility study. We're coming to the council during the next meeting with the feasibility study. And there's opportunity for funds, millions of dollars through the Economic Development Administration. So that's where we're working.
That's state.
As far as timeline, I can find out.
Because my thought is if we have a timeline and it's not too far ahead,
Mhm.
so the wait might be worth the risk. Well, let me finish. If it's only, I know we have the money, but if we can get some, there's no free money in this world. It's all taxes, but state, federal is free for this project. If we get free money to do Oldham, now we take that million and maybe put it towards the pool that some of us want. Or put it
A
somewhere.
million ain't gonna go anywhere. And you would have to start the process over of the project. You're gonna have to vet it. You're gonna have to get people out there and stuff. So within
For what? For the building? Well, aren't they doing that now?
For a new project, where are you gonna reallocate $1 million?
Well, I just use an example of the pool at the rec center.
$1 million ain't building the pool, buddy.
No, but it's better than zero.
Right. But even if we get grant money,
You're saying a jacuzzi?
yeah, pretty much.
I'm saying, if we think $1 million
good
is
with
something
that. Yeah,
to
but-
sneeze at.
If they do say there's more funding, there's other uses for money on that property.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to just be, but we're just delaying. And we could have had the roof doors and windows done. We could be in that building. I'll organize the clean out. Give me a dumpster. I'll get Riverside folk in there. We'll clear it right out. You know, it's just the wait is frustrating. That's it. That's all I wanted to convey.
Understood, Councilman. Council President, if I may, so I will get that answer for you. But just to answer some of the previous questions, I did get some information from in terms of an update. So on the police improvements to the station, so the police architect has hired a company to actually price out the project. So that's where we are with that. And then you asked about the clam shack. The architect on the clam shack is providing an addendum to their agreement, and we plan to bring it forth to the council. That's the only update. But as you know, each week we had discussed that I would come forth with all the ARPA projects, and if there wasn't an update from week to week or council meeting to council meeting, it would just kind of stay. So when I'm coming here with if there has been any kind of update to that particular project. So with Clam Shack, I didn't have one because there really wasn't an update as of the time. So it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's just I'm going to come week to week, and there may not be an update because it's 2 weeks, and there's only so much that can be done.
I've been getting called, people want clams this year.
Right.
They've been waiting for 5-6 years, just like Glen Line. And it's been something we keep talking about and then just not following through. So there is a lot of people that are anxious to see this thing get built this year.
Yeah, I will agree that it's time to get up. It's more than a clam shack. It's a refreshment. It's a concession stand. We did build a state-of-the-art high school in 2 years during a pandemic. We ought to be able to get this shack up. Anyway, let's move on, please. Can we,
That was it.
Is that complete?
Unless the council has any additional questions on.
Unless you need any special announcement of these proclamations, we can accept them as read. But if there's something that you want,
Just briefly, if I may, I'll
Sure.
be very quick. I know it's getting late. So just the International Women's Day and the Women's History Month proclamation, just to coincide with that, every year we do our annual Remarkable Woman, and we've put the nominations on our website. So we are imploring the community, if you know a remarkable woman in East Providence who does extraordinary things, please nominate her, and we will be announcing them throughout the month of March, and April, and then having a reception at the end as we do. And then just quickly on the colorectal cancer awareness month proclamation, on March 28th from 5 to 6 p.m., we partner with Brown Medicine colorectal cancer. We partner with Brown Medicine on colorectal cancer awareness month. Councilwoman Susie came with us that first year, right? We got to see all the tools. It was scary, but now we've extended that, and they come here and they bring folks, and so obviously the council, but all those invites will come as well. But I just wanted to be able to make the public aware of it. But and that's it for the proclamation.
So I know you don't live in East Providence, but
I practically do. I practically live here.
having to spend X amount of hours with your boss and then having to twice a month having to put up with us, I'll nominate you for an exceptional.
Oh, I
you-
thank
yeah.
you. I don't think I can accept it.
I know,
but they
but
help.
yeah, exactly.
Them. But thank you,
I
Council
mean,
Vice President.
Yeah. Just for the torture that you have to live through on a daily basis between him and us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
You want to
Claims Committee report.
You want to report something, Ms. Burns?
If we may, still under Mayor Communications, I know it's not part of it, but you had a question on the storefront improvement, and Melissa was looking for that information during her presentation.
If you can do it very
Really
briefly.
quickly.
Very
She was going to
briefly.
email it, but
It's not on the agenda also, but
All right, I'll be really brief. I went back to my seat and I've had a little bit of time to find what Councilman Fogarty was talking about. So the criteria that Councilman Fogarty was talking about is if we were providing assistance in the form of loans to mitigate financial hardship, such as supporting payroll and benefits and costs to retain employees, mortgage, rent, utility, and other operating costs. It would not be for storefront. Storefront is actually in a completely different section. And so I found that. So for storefront and facade improvement and incubators, the criteria is different. So what it says is Treasury presumes that the following small businesses are disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. And it says, number one, small businesses operating in qualified census tracts. So I don't want you to be nervous that we're not meeting the criteria. That really strict criteria that you were referencing is if we were providing loans for operational costs. With storefront, it can go to any business that meets the criteria that's on the qualified census tracts. So I just didn't want you to be worried about
Yep.
that.
No, that's a great clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to email this
Sure.
so you all have it.
Thank you. I'm not worried about it, number one. Number two, I'm thankful that you're following up where the monies are going
Okay.
diligently, and that's appreciative from the city side. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, the claims report, Mr. Solicitor.
We had a number of claims, a number of pothole claims were all approved up to the threshold amount of $300. Won't mention them by name, other than that, we had a claim for sewer backup, which was approved in the amount of $1,459.35, and another claim for $918.96, which was a little bit more than a pothole. It was actually a road one. Other than that, no other information was given on the pending case regarding the hotel at Rumford Motor Inn. There's a hearing, I guess, this Friday. Kirby versus City of Providence was just a status update to the city council.
Thank you for the report. Next item, we did cover some things.
We're on number 3.
Number 3, the handicap parking request.
Can we bundle those two together, the expedited?
We reported on that there was nothing to report.
Yeah, we reported that there's nothing.
The correspondence.
I believe that's from the assistant solicitor.
Okay. You want to read the title, but there's nothing to.
Request for public input regarding potential nuisance at 400 Newport Avenue, Rumford Motor Inn, for Attorney General investigation pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 10-1-1 and Rhode Island General Law 11-30-1. Correspondence may be sent by any private citizen to the city clerk at jsuppa@eastprovidenceri.gov. And we received a correspondence to be read into the record.
Okay.
Is it regarding the lawsuit? The Rumford Motor Inn?
Yes.
No, I don't think we should discuss anything to do with that. That's, I mean, Mike can better guide us, but yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Who wants to read it, they can certainly request it from the clerk.
Okay. Okay. I'm hesitant.
It was asked to be read.
Can I see the letter first before you? So it's a letter letting public know that they can submit testimony or information. Ooh, did I?
No.
Right. So why don't you go ahead and, no, it's nobody's fault. We're just being careful with the law. Now, this is not from the city council. This is a letter from the assistant city solicitor, Dylan Conley, who is the attorney representing us with the situation with the Rumford Motor Inn. The regular city solicitor is overseeing the prosecution of the case. So we have a separation of personnel here to keep things clean and legal. And so this is from Mr. Conley that is requested to have this read. So go ahead, please read that. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
It has come to our attention that the Attorney General's office is preliminarily considering an investigation in accordance with Chapter 30 of Title 11 and Chapter 1 of Title 10 of the Rhode Island General Laws regarding the Rumford Motor Inn located at 400 Newport Avenue. We are further aware that as a general practice, as a part of the Attorney General's nuisance investigation and abatement procedures under the cited state law, input from private citizens can be useful and relevant if and when the investigation progresses. For that reason, our office will collect any and all correspondence sent from the general public to the city clerk regarding any personal experiences people have had relating to the operation of the Rumford Motor Inn. Specific to this matter, if there is any member of the public interested in contributing information to the Attorney General's office, please submit that information to the office of the city clerk and make the subject of the correspondence Rumford Motor Inn to help ensure the most efficient organization. Correspondence which outlines incidents and information which any member of the public has personally witnessed or experienced is of the most value under the subsect state law. However, Any and all input is welcomed and may be utilized in the investigation process. Please bear in mind that any information provided may become a part of a public record. While we have not been given a deadline, we would ask that anyone wishing to submit any such correspondence do so within the next 30 days. Our office will turn the information over to the Attorney General thereafter.
Okay, so thank you. So these correspondence from the general public would go to the city clerk here at City Hall, who will then forward them to the attorney involved, Attorney Conley, who will then send them to the Attorney General. None of this will come to the City Council for discussion or even reading of them, as we remain impartial until such time as we may be granted a hearing. Anybody need to clarify anything further? Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
DPW Director Daniel Borges, vote to approve handicap parking request at 28 Cornell Avenue.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Rego, seconded by Councilwoman Souza to accept. All in favor? Aye. Question?
I got a quick question. Handicap parking is what, these don't need to be in ordinance. What is it we're voting on here?
The request to place handicap parking in front of 28 Cornell Avenue. It's been, there's an ordinance citywide covering these.
Okay.
And he is recommending approval.
Okay.
So I think we talked about this last time, and
Yep.
I was under the remembrance of it used to be written as just a small ordinance, and then it got added
Okay.
one ordinance that's on the books, but
So do they need our permission for this?
yes, so
Yes.
what happens is now they just, instead of having multiple ordinances for the parking, the handicap placards, it's every time we approve a plaque, it then just updates that one ordinance with the list, so it gets added to a list.
Okay. I'm an
And
aye.
the DPW director or his designee, but it's usually the director, will go to the requested property and make sure that it's warranted, that there is no other option. So I take his recommendation. So it was motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Vote to approve handicap parking request at 169 South Rose Street.
The same thing applies here.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Councilman Lawson to approve.
Second.
Seconded Councilwoman Souza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Madam Clerk, I can continue. School Committee Liaison.
So-
Nothing.
I didn't get a chance to attend the meeting or watch it, but Jess Shane gave me an update. It's reading week in the schools, which is, just reminded me, I signed up for like 2 or 3. I gotta make sure I put them on my. It's awesome. The kids are great. It's so much fun. I love reading. I love boy. It's awesome. But it's reading week. They've reached out. I don't know if you guys volunteered to go in. Bob, we can get you a pop-up book.
I was going to bring those audio books.
There you go. There you go. Our girls swim team went undefeated and won their division championship. Awesome. Unified basketball, which I believe they were champs last year, correct?
I believe so.
Yep. Starts with their first home
Volleyball.
game Wednesday, March 13th. And the East Providence High School production, the musical this year is going to be Les Miserables, The Miserables, which is what I call some of our favorite social media people. And she also, I apologize. I should respect what I'm doing up here. I apologize. And the last thing, it's not so much school requested, but Hope and Faith is doing their food drive, and donations can be dropped off at 18 Intervale Ave. And family favorites are definitely mac and cheese. So if you're looking to donate to this amazing, amazing organization, it would be greatly appreciated. And again, drop-offs can be dropped off at 18 Intervale Avenue. And that's Yeah, I ain't going through the rest. That's,
Okay,
that's it
thank
for
you.
the.
Before I turn over the mic to Councilman Fogarty for a closing comment, I would like to give a shout out well, I say former townie, but you're always a townie, so it's not former, a retired townie and longtime teacher, member of the Hall of Fame in East Providence and Rhode Island aquatic academies and URI and many others, and that is our friend John Sandy Gorham, who retired after a long career at East Providence High School, meritorious coaching career, winningest coach in East Providence. In retirement, has been coaching at Barrington High School, our neighbor, and his swim team, girls swim team, just won their 10th consecutive state championship. That's 10 years in a row. Definitely calls for a dynasty label. So Sandy Gorham, congratulations. So before Councilman Fogarty, I saw in the corner of my eye, Councilman Rigo, do you want to add something?
As far as the schools are concerned, March 18th is the beginning of spring sports, and not to put any pressure on somebody close to you, but I predict that you will be the first East Providence baseball team to reach the state championship.
That's going to be a good baseball year. That would be nice.
What a way to break in that new
Follow on
field,
that.
too. What a way to break in the new field. You know,
Scheduling on that is unbelievably difficult based on this bridge. So being an umpire, the scheduling is horrific. The teams, the bus, that's what I meant by the helpful.
Yeah.
Hopefully helpful.
Bridges.
Change the schedule and
Awful.
everything, but good luck. And I agree with that prediction. So you want me to take the floor?
Please take the floor, and then you can follow up with the motion to adjourn.
My message is to all those watching and those that, are going to watch in the future and those that are here. As you know, my fellow council people protected me and did me well when I wasn't here and absent for my mom's sickness. She did pass February 19th. A lot of support from the city, the state officials, elected officials, both all over the place. People in this room that came to support her at St. Margaret's last Saturday for the funeral was a tremendous support of love. Power of prayer allowed us to be in the room. I'm a man of faith, spirit, so spiritually I feel like she, got an immediate path to heaven after the 5 months of suffering. And I'm a firm believer of that power of prayer, losing dad in 2015. Mom in 24. So anybody that's lost one of your loved ones, it's a feeling of empty heart. But those that still have them, make sure you give a hug, a kiss, a text. And those that lost them, make sure you vision a picture of their face and give them a little hug right now from me. But I appreciate all the help and support. And it's been very traumatizing for sure. But we make it through with family, faith, and I'm comfortable. So thank you for covering for me, all of you. And thank you for attending and all the gifts, prayers, St. Jude's, prayer cards, just a tremendous outpouring of support. My family thoroughly and appreciate you very much. And for that reason, right now, we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Well said, Councilman. You've been a